Sorry for starting like that. I was just making some tea. So getting myself a cup of tea. I hope we're all doing well. Did we enjoy Novara? Were people watching Novara today? I hope we're all good there in chat. Let's say hello to people. And my headphones have disconnected for some reason. Let's try plugging those back in.
You are a liar.
So you've got lots of content for me today. You've got me on Novara at 6.
Right-wing, and I loved it.
And then after that, we're now going to do some Manifesto coverage followed by the 7-way debate. And then in the evening, for Twitch viewers, we've got question time with Kevin as well. So there's lots and lots of content. The clip at the end was brutal. It was pretty brutal. I'm looking forward to the whole video dropping. Should be an absolute riot, shouldn't it? Absolutely, absolutely. So without further ado, let's do some Manifesto coverage, shall we? Shall we have a look at what people are saying about the Manifesto? This is the wrong. I need to sort this out. Just one sec. Come on, there we go. No, I meant enlarge. Okay, why is Streamlabs so bloody slow? There we go. Woo! Wow. Oh, no sound. Well, good thing you didn't hear that, because it's going to get more. That's going to be a surprise for later.
Keir Starmer and the word change, promising to somehow find enough economic growth to transform the UK. But how much change are they actually offering? The big vision, when you get to reading it, is about ending the chaos and hope. Not big change on inequality, poverty, productivity, climate change, or our place in the world. Labour is on course to...
More grown-ups in the room is what you're going to get. Your change is you're going to replace the chaos with the adults in the room. And that is really what's important as far as centrism goes. As long as people look more competent, yeah.
To win power with a safety-first strategy that promises relatively little, leaving us relatively little to hold them to account for. But will that be enough for the country? And what about the thing the 2019 election did actually promise and deliver, Brexit? The big issue at the last election, this time in the Labour manifesto, is buried on page 117. With me today, Labour's Stella Creasy, the Green Party's Sian Berry, and our very own senior political correspondent, Paul McNamara. So Stella, I'm sure you're going to banish my scepticism and tell me how you're going to change the world with this manifesto. It strikes me as it's kind of big talk of change, but when you get to the specifics, it's pretty vague.
Well, maybe it's a sign of the times, but I do think it would be a change not to be walking into the chamber in Parliament, kind of covering your eyes and hoping for the best because the government is so chaotic and so mad and coming up with things that you think...
Yeah, actual policy, that doesn't matter. The real change you want is for the Westminster psychodrama to go away, because that's what our lobby journalists care about. They don't care about making a better country.
They must be saying for a dare. I mean, I don't think you can undersell for people just how chaotic it has been and the impact it's having on their lives. Anybody who's got a mortgage bill knows the consequences of having a chaotic Conservative government in power.
Well, that was an exogenous shock to the economy. Like, interest rates were going up around the world. It just happened to coincide with the Liz Truss budget. Like, There was chaos for pension holders, like pension funds lost a lot of money because of Liz Truss and because of their over leveraging of LDIs, right? So the bond yield increase was a problem. That was chaotic, but the mortgage rates were something that was outside of Liz Truss's control. Oh, cheers, Kev.
Power. I take your challenge. I take your challenge that the scale of the problems and the things that are broken run so deep, that is going to need big work. But I think it's a luxury to say just having a government that you don't think is bonkers is going to be isn't a big enough change, because when I go out and talk to people, and I expect you're probably finding this too, there's just this general sense of Westminster being so awful and so beyond reproach that governments can never do anything good. So to actually win the argument that governments could do anything good at all seems the first step.
The end of the
Except you're not doing anything. You're a government that's going to come into power and not do anything.
chaos narrative works with a lot of voters, but I wonder whether it really works beyond day two. Once you've got rid of them and you're the new government and you don't have a huge program of we're going to do this, that, and the other.
I am going to push back that I just think the destabilising effect of government especially over the last 5 years, has been really damaging for a lot of people, very much at the sharp end, right? I take your point that in the context of people used to governments that come up with things like Brexit and how to respond to Ukraine and the pandemic, that doesn't feel as radical. But maybe going back to the sense that actually you plan for change rather than having change foisted upon you is the most radical thing of all.
I mean, Sian, of course, your party wants much more.
But you're not changing anything. You're not planning to change anything. The macroeconomic picture is basically staying identical, just with some minor tweaks around the sides. It's literally the Joe Biden nothing will fundamentally change argument.
More radical change in all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And I wonder whether actually the challenge for you in all of this is that their genius has been actually not promising radical change. And they will get elected in all likelihood not promising very much.
Well, this is it. This is a very narrow political bubble argument that we just heard. The idea that people are only worried about there not being chaos in Westminster when their daily lives have been affected for 14 years by the most severe austerity, the changes in the economy that have hurt their incomes, the fact that the benefit system is so punitive now. And we've now got Labour coming in, promising to be more sensible, granted, but writing a 5-year programme that promises not to do very much. It's not just that it's not promising very much. There is a lot in there that says there are cast iron rules that we will not reverse austerity, for example.
Exactly, 100% right, 100% right. Again, people talk about the chaos of Brexit or the chaos of Liz Truss, something that affected people who wanted to be able to get visa-free travel to the south of France, or people who had pension provision. By all means, things that did affect some people, and I can understand why they were disliked. But, for the rest of us, politics was about what was being done to our communities because of George Osborne, again, which preceded all of this. But this doesn't come into the discussion. The austerity economy, the destroyed lives of the poor and disabled, that's what's affected us. And there's nobody speaking for us in government now. And that's why we want to elect Green Party people.
I'm literally a communist.
See change in their daily lives, people are going to get very impatient quite quickly with the new Labour government, and they're going to start challenging and saying, can we not have a bit more than this?
Well, if you get elected not promising very much, then you can't be held.
Promising
you
not
can't be
to
held
do very
up.
much is different to not promising.
But you won't be accused of breaking your promises if you haven't promised very much. And the question is, does that last, or will people, as you suggest, start getting disgruntled?
Well, no, it doesn't last. I mean, one of the first things that Green MPs are going to do is take our manifesto, which has costed plans to reinvest in the National Health Service to a huge degree, to put money back into teachers' pay, the education service, to restore benefits, to do a massive uplift on universal credit and disability benefits, because that's what's really hurting people. We've got a costed plan for that. Labour are saying they will not do that. So we're going to have a big job on our hands, Greens working with the civil society and all the people who need this to try and reverse Labour's strong commitments not to spend money.
Can we just get into that? Because actually what you're talking about is borrowing a horrific amount of money in order to do that, which is what Kwasi Kwarteng and Liz...
Well, I mean, but Liz Truss did tax cuts. They used the money they were borrowing for tax cuts for the ultra-wealthy with no plans on how that would grow the economy to be able to pay for it. That's why the bond markets had a field day over it, why they crashed so quickly. Whereas both the Green Party's plans, similarly to the manifesto that you ran on in 2017, Stella, is to take that money and investment to be able to show returns on the investment that it's put into, to be able to justify the state assets that it would create by using that investment. Again, if you follow the Resolution Foundation's fiscal rules, where assets are taken away from the debt to GDP ratio, because, of course, the state has paid for something, they've given away free money, they have got an asset now that is worth something added to the overall fiscal picture of the government, that also creates economic growth as well as returns for the state. That's why these things are different. Trying to compare Liz Truss with the Greens or kind of Corbyn-era politics is just nonsense. It's complete nonsense.
Trust
No, we're talking
you
about,
are talking about borrowing.
Ours are tax, ours are revenue.
You put borrowing in
Ours
your
are in-year
in your
revenue.
manifesto as well, haven't you?
There is borrowing, meant for capital investment.
No,
that's
you put
investment
borrowing
to say.
right, but that's also what Rishi Sunak and
No, they were borrowing for tax cuts, which is
you are
quite
borrowing.
different.
You are borrowing. It's the borrowing.
Yeah, but you will
that
borrow.
crashed the
Every
economy.
government borrows loads. You will end up.
Exactly. This is crazy right-wing arguments from Stella Creasy. Literally what I was saying on Novara, like this, you can never borrow, it'll push up interest rates, it'll push up aggregate demand. There's no evidence for this. There's no evidence for any of these things. Again, governments have always borrowed for capital investment. Our government borrowed for capital investment for year after year in the post-war period before 1979. Did it cause this massive inflationary crisis? No, of course it didn't, because it created productive capacity, increased both supply and demand, as well as economic growth, which kept prices stable. This is such bad faith nonsense from Stella Creasy. Literally just, you can never borrow ever. Again, after she ran on a manifesto of borrowing to invest in 2017 and in 2019 as well.
Borrowing
No.
because the numbers will all be on.
What I won't do, because every election is a choice, is take the idea that it's a given that we're going to win, and so therefore this is about attacking without the accountability and scrutiny of what you're talking about. Because the people at the poorest at the sharp end, I represented, and I hope to represent again, one of the poorest communities in this country, and every single change has cost them directly, right? So adding in another catastrophic change like that, where you crash the economy again, will not help them.
Right.
They're not going to crash the economy, though. Again, you're making stuff up. This is such bad faith, disgusting right-wing garbage from Stella Creasy. Like, I had at least a bit of a reasonable opinion of her. It's been destroyed now. Absolutely no opinion of her anymore. Like a bottom of the barrel opinion. This is crazy stuff. Thank you for the 10 gifted. Appreciate you, David.
Paul, we don't have a Conservative on this panel today.
Because I'm wearing blue today, you just thought I could do the job.
No, well, I thought you could tell us what the Conservatives are saying, because we saw something really interesting this week, which is Conservatives, and we're told actually sent out by the campaign to start warning about the danger of a massive Labour majority. What's going on there?
This is the, in case of emergency, break glass, everything's going to the walls. This is the last chance saloon. This is the strategy that you cling on to. And the fear-mongering you put out is, look, the polls are saying that we're not just going to lose, we're going to lose really big. Losing really big would be really bad because Labour would have this whopping great big majority. No one's going to be there to hold them to account. So, don't do that. Don't be tempted with reform. Don't flirt with reform. Stick to the Tory party, because otherwise we no one to keep Labour in check. The problem with that is it sort of falls on its face when a lot of the people that you're talking to there who might be flirting with reform, their argument is they look at Keir Starmer and Rishi Sunak and say, well, they're pretty much the same person. The one criticism that's come forward is that they're both so similar. So I'm not scared of the bloke who's really similar to the bloke I don't like having a really big majority. I might as well go for Nigel Farage.
Because Sian, the whole keeping the Labour Party in check argument is also yours, but from the other side.
Well, absolutely
You're
is,
saying you
yeah.
want to keep them radical, and the Tories are saying they want to, they want to hold them back from being too radical.
Yeah, and we are expecting a very large Labour majority here, and that is going to have to be somebody holding them to account. And that's what Greens...
Well, you've got the Tory line. That's the Tory line.
That's what Greens are really good at. Well, the nightmare for the country is if it's only the Conservatives and Reform holding Labour to account, because that's just going to push them even further to the right. We do need Greens there to push them on actually investing in the country, to ask them why we're not seeing the reversal of austerity that we want, to speak maybe on behalf of the councils all around the country, run by all the different parties who are crying out for more investment that are not getting that currently in the plans that have been put forward today.
Doesn't part of you, if we weren't in an election, see Sian?
Exactly. Like, They need to hold this government to account because they're going to continue ruinous policy that's going to create managed decline. And when it inevitably fails, we're going to have somebody who picks up the pieces, who isn't just another set of right-wing neoliberal goon squad people like the Conservative Party or the Liberal Democrats or, God forbid, Reform UK. There's going to have to be some kind of positive alternative that we create from the left to pick people up and say, no, a better world is possible. Having 5 years of Labour saying, actually, better isn't possible. What we can promise you is just stability and wealth creation without redistributing it to the people who need it.
Really is a kindred spirit, and that you are basically in the same church.
This is the
and
challenge.
it would be quite a good thing to have some
This is
people
the
to the
challenge
left
thing,
of you
because
in the
what
House,
Sian's just said is frankly deeply insulting to people like myself who have disagreed with every Labour leader in my lifetime on something, right? And I joined early on. They'll all tell you I've wound them up about something, and I've campaigned for all of them. I didn't join a cult. I joined a political movement. There are plenty of people within the Labour movement who do disagree on all sorts of things. We have debates, we have
fewer
discussions.
and fewer. They're all being drummed out.
And I am somebody
True.
who has taken that, actually, for 14 years I've served in Parliament. In all that time I've been on the opposition benches. That hasn't stopped us from campaigning on issues and frankly winning those arguments. If your best argument for being elected is, well, we're not the other guys, that isn't a contribution to make.
Well,
But that's not their argument. Their argument is your guys' plans are bad, your policies are bad. We offer different policies. It's not just green team, red team. There is explicit policy and ideological difference between the management neoliberal speak of the Labour Party and the progressive alternative of a socialist, social democratic, whatever you want to call it, Green Party. And we need to be able to have a parapet to make those arguments. What Stella Creasy is essentially telling the viewers at home is, don't vote for an alternative party with an alternative vision and alternative ideology. You need to give us a dictatorial majority for no reason other than it's just good for us. Like, what alternative does she have here?
That's an opposition.
That's the argument you're making. That's entirely the argument that you're making.
No. I'm doing the reverse. I'm saying that actually it's about what you do stand for, what you will do, what you are going to champion.
I mean, I want to stress how much the Greens will be a constructive opposition to the Labour Party and how much we would like to be working with
Not
the
the
Labour.
Conservatives.
How much we would like to be working with the Labour backbench to push forwards the good ideas that are in our manifesto. There's a strong economic case for a lot of the things that are there that we've worked out that we want to be putting forwards to the Labour leadership. Now, the thing about the Labour backbenchers, they will still be whipped. If there are questions like, is there too much privatisation still going on within the NHS? And you've got Wes Streeting pushing through stuff. There are going to be limits to what Labour MPs can do. And we've seen a really worrying authoritarian streak from Keir Starmer recently.
You guys are doing a great job.
That's so true. Absolutely 100% true. Again, there is going to be this gigantic consensus because the Starmer Politburo have purged away any dissenting voices internally within the party. It's why we've all left, right? We're either being purged or our viewpoints aren't listened to. So we've left. We've joined an alternative party to be able to hold them to account from the outside, because there's going to be no accountability from inside because it's so dictatorial and authoritarian. Policy is being set by shadowy think tanks from outside the party rather than by the memberships. There's no way of doing it internally. The only way is going to be externally, and the Labour Party know this, and that's a great point by Sean Berry.
Me as the proxy for the Tory. I'm just going to let you two shout it out. This is great. The proxy for the Tory doesn't have to do anything.
Well, if they were here, I'd say the same. Like, all of us have to be challenged.
If they were here, they'd let you two carry on arguing.
Why?
No, the thing is,
why? Because they're out of ideas.
Well,
I mean, that
although
is the thing. The Conservatives are not really providing.
It's
a
interesting. I mean, I was
proposal in
thinking
this
a similar
election.
thing, but from the other angle, which was that watching you argue with Sian,
Yeah.
you could be a Conservative.
Ooh.
Telling her,
I beg your pardon.
she's wildly unrealistic. And,
Andrew Neil says similar things to that.
Whoa. Like, Nye Bevan, pure but impotent, is written through my soul, okay? That is the fundamental.
I'm not accusing you of being a Conservative, but I'm just saying that the role in that,
I'm not going to
dynamic in that
the
argument.
idea that the Greens somehow are a progressive movement, and we're not. Like, actually, what is progressive?
Yes, exactly, because Greens are offering redistribution. They're offering left-wing economic policy, like actual Keynesianism and not monetarist groupthink garbage. They're offering to be able to bring up the bottom rung of the ladder, rather than creating a longer ladder and creating opportunity. Right, they want to create opportunity, but we want to be able to lift up the bottom so that all boats rise. That's what we're doing. We're the ones who are not doing reactionary policy on migration, on asylum seekers, on trans people, for example. We're the ones with progressive social policy. You have regressive social policy, imperialist foreign policy, monetarist fiscal policy, and authoritarian domestic policy. Like, you don't represent progressivism, Stella. You just don't. And because your massive swing to the right has alienated your core voter base, we've all joined the Greens, mate.
Politics, I understand, is up for contestation, but many of us consider ourselves, frankly, to be much more radical.
On this podcast, we also like to discuss what is basically not being mentioned in the election. And the big one in 2024, bizarrely, is Brexit. Paul, nobody wants
Don't really care about Brexit.
Debate. We have a lot of work to do. And in the middle of all of that, our British businesses facing massive increases in paperwork, massive increases in cost. That's my priority right now.
Well, Sian, I mean,
These are not
you mentioned the
mutually
European
exclusive
elections.
things, though.
But, you know, we also look at the rise of reform in this country. And you mentioned it yourself. If Brexit became part of the debate,
Reform just gone past Conservatives in the polls, according to the Times. Also, thank you, Turn Left, for the raid. Much appreciated. Welcome in, Turn Left viewers.
Nigel Farage would be centre stage in every argument.
Yeah.
The point of that being,
Good. Let's
there's
hold
a
him to account
really
for what he's done. Nye Bevan makes a real difference to your politics. Because actually, all that hostility,
Looking at that, so it's not just something that the Conservative government is looking at, other nations in Europe are.
only Belarus looked to leave the European Court of Human Rights.
in the election.
So I do
Does
not.
that not worry you?
I do not underestimate.
Does part of you not fear, though, that there is a danger of 5 years of pragmatic government that is calm, that does change things, but in a relatively modest way, paving the way for what we're seeing in America now, which is the resurgence of the right? And that
You're
in 5
comparing
years'
not
time,
crashing the economy with Donald Trump.
Well, yeah, I'm comparing you to Biden, and I'm saying if you are, I mean, Biden without the money, by the way, because Biden's been able to spend a huge amount of money on the Inflation Reduction Act and other measures, which you won't be able to. And despite all,
Not won't be able to, are deliberately choosing not to. They could, if they wanted to, spend similar amounts as a percentage of GDP to be able to influence the supply side to create new jobs and new businesses and grow the economy. They could, but they are choosing not to do so. It's not that they can't.
of that, the right is resurgent and looking like it might win the election.
So I do
Does
not.
that not worry you?
I do not underestimate the scale of the challenge caused by the rise of far-right extremist politics around the world. I look at the National Rally in France and Macron's decision to call an election in the run-up to the Olympics. I look at the AfD, I look at Geert Wilders, I look at Giorgia Meloni. And yes, I look at the impact it's had on politics, even in countries like Sweden and Denmark. I also look at the socialists winning in Portugal. I look at Donald Tusk. I know that there is an argument that we've all got to have with the British public about what the alternative can be. I just know it also starts with a basic level of competency that government can do things.
You think competence is enough?
I
is the point.
genuinely think
the bottom line
I
of this
think-
conversation is competence
I think
enough?
it's the starting point for the British public because they have no faith that anything can be different. And that's where the populists come in because ultimately they are sclerotic, right? Donald
No, that the populists come in if you fail to take account of people's material conditions, which competency does not do. Like, competency is fine, good, all good, well. I'm happy for you to be competent. That's not a problem for me. Not a problem that you prize competence. That's fine. Well, that's only like 20% of the battle. You've got to improve people's material conditions enough so that they cannot be tricked into supporting bad faith politicians who give them simple solutions to problems of material conditions. Again, this is why people like Pedro Sanchez have avoided the far right in Spain, because he actually did proper left-wing political and economic policy, unlike, say, the AP over in Norway, who went even more right-wing post-pandemic and engaged the austerity lever, and that's causing the resurgence of right-wing parties in many countries that have done similar things, where social democrats have abandoned social democracy. There's a reason why the radicalism, a comparative radicalism of Pedro Sanchez, avoided the rise of the far right and managed to continue to win elections.
Trump, Nigel Farage, Geert Wilders, Marine Le Pen and co, they don't offer any answers. They just offer you somebody to blame.
Do you
they
think
offer you the idea that
competence,
nothing
Sian-
can be different, so just be cross with this group of people for the reason you're in.
Sian, do you think competence is enough?
I don't, and I think you make a really, really good point there. I said earlier that things were, it was all a bit dismal, what was being offered by Labour. I think this election lacks hope. They should be putting more hope into their election campaigning. And at the end of 5 years, they need to have built more that people cherish, or it does end up at the end of 5 years being something that could just melt away again. We've got to be building much more quickly, in a much more concerted way, a better country, and building back our institutions like the NHS into a genuinely, properly invested in public institution that people will never, ever let slip again, because at the moment the NHS is absolutely teetering on the edge, and nothing I see in Labour's plans. There's a single-digit amount of billions of pounds going into the NHS in Labour's current revenue plans. We've upped that to 50 billion by the end of the 5 years. That's the real hope people want to see. That's the kind of thing that people want to have seen built by the end of 5 years.
Just feel
They
Stella
won't want to
bubbling
let
away
go
here.
of.
Sorry, but if you want a message of hope, why is your best argument, oh, well, don't worry, you're going to get a Labour government so you can vote for us just because we're not Labour?
Because
That
we'll
isn't
push
hope.
them to do this
That isn't
thing,
hope.
to bring some hope
is showing
into
how
the-
you're going to do that. So
No, because we're offering an alternative. You are rerunning the failed policies of 45 years. At the end of that Tony Blair time, when he engaged with the same policies over the 10 years he was in government and followed by Gordon Brown, I mean, it was at the end of the Blair period, the deindustrialisation, the championing of the financial sector, all of the policies that led to the global financial crisis, whilst not actually dealing with gross inequality in this country, just a little bit of redistribution, that was the rise of the BNP. The excoriation of left-wing politics, the removal of left-wing politics from the political discourse under Blair, the Thatcherism there is no alternative to it in the public consciousness, was the rise of the BNP. Competent governance, it doesn't cut the mustard. You need to have proper policy that creates a broad base for everybody, like Clement Attlee did. We didn't have a problem. We didn't have a problem with these far-right parties throughout the entirety of the post-war consensus period. It's only been since we've seen the breakdown of the social contract under neoliberalism that we've gotten to this point. We got there under Tony Blair, and we'll have it again under Keir Starmer. We'll have a resurgent far right, and you're doing nothing to stop them. We are the ones providing the alternative, so that when the pieces fall down, we will be there to pick them up with a real alternative.
people,
Parliament.
where have you been on Europe? With the greatest will in the world, those of us who challenged the retained EU law and worked with the trade unions and worked with the campaign organisations, where were you?
On Brexit, when Brexit was going through, and Caroline Lucas was a leading light in
In
trying
the
to
last
coordinate
5 years,
people
in the last
to
5 years
fight
when it's
back
been
against
difficult,
some of those appalling
when it's been
amendments.
difficult in the last 5 years, where have you guys been? And I had Brexiteer Greens
It's
standing
much more
against me, so I
argumentative
know
than you
it's-
two than I ever expected, I have to say. Paul, I mean,
We've been a growing force in politics, particularly local government, for the last 5 years.
do you
know it?
detect any? I mean, what I'm raising in terms of sort of the longer term fear for Labour, do you detect any of that in the conversations you're having?
Look, the truth of the matter is that as the Conservatives are pumping out now as their last line of defence is we're looking towards this massive majority. It might not be the super majority, but it is looking like a very large majority. If you look at the vast majority of new candidates that Labour parties bring in, a lot of them being vetted to within an inch of their lives. You're not looking at an awful lot of dissenting voices within the new people that are coming through. So I don't get the impression that there's going to be hordes of new Labour MPs that are going to be beating down the leader of the opposition. Well, the new Prime Minister's office, if it is Keir Starmer who wins the election, saying, right, we need a second referendum right now. I think the status quo is going to be the one.
Right, we're going to have to leave that there because we've got the debate to cover. Let me jump in with Kevin.
Hello.
All right, how are we doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Except that I can't seem to get the ITV to not go black screen.
It should be on
the-
YouTube.
Really? Okay. I'll have a look.
It was on YouTube last time.
Okay. ITV. ITV Live, I guess. I don't know.
I'll just search ITV debate. It'll just probably just come up as one of the results.
ITV debate. Navarra reacts. Oh, live coverage. Here we go.
Ready for some political heavyweight coverage, chat? No Super Tansky anywhere here.
You about which of your taxes the Conservatives will cut. Labour
Is she still whinging
trying
about
not
that?
to talk about the ones they're going to put up.
I'm Carla Denyer,
Fuck
co-leader
yes.
of the Green Party.
Let's go.
The Tories are toast, but Labour are offering little better. With the Green Party, you can choose real hope and real change.
I'm Nigel Farage, leader of Reform UK.
Big
Just before we
chungus.
came on air, we overtook the
Up the
Conservatives in
Ra!
national opinion polls. We are now the opposition to Labour.
I'm Stephen Flynn, the leader of the SNP at Westminster, and we're here to always put Scotland's interests first.
Hi, I'm Rhun ap Iorwerth. I'm the leader of Plaid Cymru. Tonight I'll make the case for a fairer, more ambitious Wales, but also for a new kind of politics that can matter to you wherever you are.
Hello and welcome to the ITV election debate. It has been a fractious few weeks in the election so far, grappling with issues like the cost of living, tax, the health service and immigration. After our head-to-head with Keir Starmer and Rishi Sunak tonight, we have leading politicians from the 7 largest parties in Great Britain to hear all of their ideas and plans for tackling the big challenges. And with trust in politics at an all-time low, and where many of us feel our political system is broken, what can they say to restore some faith? Well, the format tonight is simple. We want to focus on 4 big questions at the heart of this general election campaign. Those questions come from ITV viewers, and the questioners selected are here in the studio with us. They will put their questions directly to the politicians. Each politician will then have an initial uninterrupted reply to the question. After all the politicians have had a response, we will then debate their positions on that question in depth. I may add in some shorter questions from the viewers at home to add to our debate. And you can join in wherever you are by using the hashtag ITVDebate. It's time for our first topic. We were inundated with questions from people worried about public services, from people who use them and from people who work in them.
There's no money left, no magic money tree.
From Southport. Dennis.
I was born around the time that the NHS was founded.
Yeah, fucking
It
shows,
was an
mate.
amazing thing, but unfortunately, now it is on its knees. So many public services are not working as they used to. Do any of you have any ideas that are big enough to make things work again?
Thank you very much indeed, Dennis. And a reminder that Dennis's question obviously talks.
Okay, get ready for Nigel Farage to say we need to be like the French, because
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
because I think he enjoys being a cheeky prick, just having spent his entire bit let's not be anything like them. They're scum in Europe, and let's have a French model for the NHS. Cheeky, I love it.
Talks broadly about the public
Banter.
services, some of which, like health and education, are devolved areas with policies.
It's a really weird
in
episode,
Scotland,
15
Wales.
to 1.
It is a bit weird. It is a bit weird. Although I do appreciate William G. Sterling, whatever his name was. Yeah, I appreciate his successor is a lot less mental, I think.
And Northern Ireland. I'll come to my
What was his name,
first
Jack?
responder, please, to Penny Mordaunt.
Thank you. Well, thank you for your question. The NHS in particular, it's an act of faith for the people of this country. They want to be able to rely on it. But since the COVID pandemic, the caseload that our healthcare professionals are dealing
calm
with
the hair down
has gone
today.
up by
Yeah, I was literally about to say, and then I thought, would that be sexist if I said it? I'm glad you did, so I can jump in. Yeah, they've definitely toned it down a bit, because you did look a little bit like a kind of, I don't know, a yassified BG.
I mean, it was
maybe?
it reminded me of the guy from the from Back to the Future.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, it looked like a lion's mane. It was a bit weird.
It was a lion's mane, yeah.
43%. The only way that
William
we can
G.
reduce
Stewart,
those
that was
waiting
it.
lists is to keep the NHS budget strong. That we have done, that we will continue to do. The only party on this platform that has ever cut the NHS budget is Labour. They've cut it 3 times in Wales. And we have to increase the number.
Whoa.
The NHS budget as a share of GDP dropped every single year from 2010 to 2016 with George Osborne as Chancellor. Literally every single year. It was ring-fenced in nominal terms, but of course that is taken away by both inflation and growing GDP. So actually, it fell as a percent of GDP for every single one of those years, despite being ring-fenced. So that's a lie.
I believe it did under most of the years of Thatcher and Major as well, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. So yeah, she's just a liar, just a liar. Yeah.
This is a theme of the election, isn't it?
And she hasn't even got onto whatever absurd tax claims they're going to make now. Labour are going to tax your hair. Fuck it, why not? $2,000 for hair.
Of healthcare professionals that we have. We have been doing that, 70,000 more nurses, for example. We have to continue that, and we won't do if we can't retain them in the service because they're being taxed out of it because of their pension.
Thank you very much, Penny Mordaunt. Stephen Flynn.
Dennis, thank you for your question. And the NHS is quite an important topic for me because I physically wouldn't be standing here if it wasn't for the good work that the NHS did. I was a disabled man for 18 years. I know the importance of our public services, but our NHS in particular. The thing the NHS requires more than anything is clear financial support from government and a plan for the future. And I'm afraid that Westminster doesn't offer that hope and that certainty. What's baked in under a future Labour government is £18 billion worth of public sector cuts. That's the equivalent of the entirety of Scotland's health and social care budget. You deserve better, and the people of Scotland deserve better, which is why people should vote for the SNP at this election in Scotland.
Stephen Flynn, thank you. Ryan Appiaworth.
Yeah, fair call.
Yeah, I mean, literally. Although to be fair, the £18 billion of public sector cuts isn't in the NHS. Like that number is specific.
Well, no, that's across all government expenditure, right?
Well, it's non-protected departments, and health and social care spending is protected. It's because that has to increase faster than the 1% budget increases elsewhere. It means that the relative cuts in other departments that aren't ring-fenced have to go down to essentially pay for the additional nominal spending in NHS care. Yeah. But of course, the NHS still needs more capital investment. That's the big problem. Like day-to-day spending needs to go on, like wages, for example, to deal with the workforce issues. But the real issues that we've had for the last 14 years in the NHS is a failure of capital investment, a failure of building new facilities.
Yeah, but they've promised to put £1.5 billion over the course of the entire term.
Woo! Thanks, Rachel.
I mean, really, there's tinkering around the edges, and then there's pissing in a cup, and that you're doing the latter of those two things at this point. It's nothing.
We can look at it from two sides in Wales. Actually, we have suffered, as everybody is, as a result of the public spending cuts by 14 years of the Conservatives. But also in Wales, we have had...
Honestly, mate, just call yourself Dave. It'd be a lot easier. And I know you're saying to yourself, you're sick of Angloid interference in Welsh affairs and that I should shut up. And you're correct. So I will.
Also, thank you, UV Power, for the £5 super chat. I hate neoliberalism. 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 I'm getting the picture. I'm getting the idea, UV Power, that you might hate neoliberalism.
Or that was sarcastic, and they should give you another £5 to explain that it wasn't.
But thank you.
Managed health for 25 years. At the heart of the future of the NHS has got to be sustainable. This is sustainability of funding, which is why I want to see fair funding for Wales, but it's also got to be the sustainability of the workforce. The NHS is nothing without its workforce. That's why we say we want to recruit 500 extra GPs into the NHS.
You're going to pay them more?
Core principles. One.
Well, that's in Wales, and the same problem, I think, because I mean, I before I came on with you, we went through the Labour Party manifesto, or at least some of it anyway. What to the degree to which there's anything in there to go over, and all of their plans are like, we'll get 8,500 more medical personnel. Where from? How are you going to pay for them? Are you actually going to pay them proper wages? Nothing about that in there. Just we're just going to do it. We're just going to magic them out of thin air, apparently. Where are you getting these 500 Welsh GPs from, mate? You don't control that thing. So like you can say, if we're independent, we'll do X, Y, and Z, but you're not going to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Not in the next parliament. So it's it's pie in the sky, really.
Yeah. Also,
not that it's a bad idea. It's just it's not possible.
As always, make sure you're clipping the good bits, people, in Twitch chat, and post it on Twitter, and tag me in it, and I can get a clip out on the social medias.
We absolutely have to pledge to keep the NHS free at the point of need, and also to keep privatisation out of the NHS. And it pains so many people to see Labour's Wes Streeting talking so warmly about bringing the private sector into the NHS.
True. Nigel Farage.
Well, Dennis, the NHS has two fundamental problems. One, Penny mentioned, caseloads up by 43%. Why?
Immigration.
Because of an exploding population. All of our public services are under pressure because the population has increased by 6 million since the Conservatives came to power. It's impossible to keep up. Secondly, everyone talks.
Literally, there is nothing this man couldn't turn into a talk about immigration.
I mean, I understand why.
Take sugar with your tea, Nigel. Immigrants.
Racist immigrants. Well, the thing is, what's important is that it makes kind of like rudimentary sense. Like, the idea, more people here, same number of hospitals, that means that it's going to be harder to see a GP or whatever. That makes like rudimentary levels of sense. It makes. You can put that together in your head, but of course, as always, I will point out, is that NHS spending and NHS capacity is always going to be a function of the size of the rest of the economy, as that's what we're drawing upon for tax revenue to be able to put into the NHS to be able to spend on capacity. More immigrants coming equals more people working, which equals a bigger economy, a higher GDP, higher tax receipts, and we could spend that on a bigger NHS.
Well, as with all of these talk about the stress that immigration puts on infrastructure, the problem isn't the immigrants coming in because A, they're the ones that build the infrastructure and, like you say, pay into the tax base and all the rest of it, because we're not producing enough young people, so that sort of has to happen. And secondly, the problem is that successive governments now for the last 40 years, because of neoliberalism, have refused to engage in significant and serious growth of the road, public transport, hospitals, schools, etc. The infrastructure, if we invested in it, would easily be able to accommodate this kind of population. There are countries with far larger populations in smaller land masses. Okay, if you look at the population density of certain other places that get on perfectly well, it's much higher than in Britain. Our carrying capacity is nowhere near reached. So the idea that we're quote unquote full is ridiculous and is just driven by the racist fantasies of dickheads like Nigel Farage.
Like, what's frustrating, right, is you literally, if you just wanted to make cultural arguments about immigration, like, I would disagree with you. I would vehemently disagree with you, but at least you wouldn't be making up a bunch of bollocks, right? Yeah. Like, if you were to say, I worry about immigration because of the threats to our communities, I believe that a foreign culture is usurping British culture, and I think these arguments, I do not think they carry any weight, but at the very least, that's an opinion that you can have that's based in your subjectivity about what a society is supposed to look like, and you can make those arguments. But this idea that immigrants are like solely to blame for the fact that we have like a sky-high waiting list, when the immigrants are the ones working in the NHS, and like as you say, our population pyramid is really top-heavy because we haven't had enough kids. We need a bigger working population to be able to fund the NHS. The more boomers retire, the fewer workers we've got, the more pensioners we have, pensioners that need more NHS care because they're older. Like, if we do not have immigration to be able to build our productive capacity, the NHS will have to go away. It's probably why Nigel wants it privatised, because he doesn't want it to have to be a burden on state expenditure when that massively inflates when all these boomers that vote for him retire. That's the thing that I think, that's the problem I think that he has, not that necessarily believes it's more efficient or anything.
Can I just say, I will just push back briefly about the thing you said at the start about a foreign culture coming in and taking over, because I think that's already happened when the Angles and the Saxons came in and brought their disgusting Gallic French nonsense here. The Gauls and the Britannic peoples need to re-establish our dominance over these islands. So you fucking wasps need to fuck off, okay? We've had enough of that.
Well, thank you for the £5 UV power. Kevin is right, you should explain. You do hate neoliberalism, you're a communist. When you talk of your hatred for neoliberalism, it makes me laugh because you feel your pain. Okay, well, thank you very much for the clarification, UV power.
That definitely sounded sarcastic again. I think you should be fine. No, I don't want to like ruin you financially just by goading you. Stop it. No. Right.
Talks about more money, more money. We've massively increased the amount we spend on the NHS. We've gone from spending about 7% of the national cake.
He's going to carry on saying the lie again. Oh, for
and the cake. He's talking about cake again.
You've been corrected about your fucking weird cake-based lies, and he's just going to carry on.
Once again, that's why he has to say cake. He has to use a fucking useless canard, a useless aphorism, as a way of essentially trying to trick the public into thinking that the amount of money is fixed, not something that can grow. Again, specifically in proportion to the amount of people here.
Yeah.
To over 11% of the national cake for worse and
National
worse returns.
cake?
We need to look at countries like France, who spend exactly the same sum of money.
I told you.
But get far better
Bingo.
services by people paying in to an insurance fund. It acts on a mutual basis. Those that can't pay don't. They get better results. Let's think more.
I mean, we do have national insurance already. So, like, and I know it's not direct in the same way, but like, the point is, you're suggesting essentially a tax pool based on the ability to pay with extra steps.
Yeah, that's exactly it. With just all of the infrastructure to administer it on top of the administration we already have, which is called HMRC. This is extra inefficiency, as well as obviously all the private sector dividends and shareholders and managers that we're going to be paying out as well. He just wants to add like this extra layer of bureaucracy and inefficiency. It's really dumb.
Yeah.
More broadly.
Thank you very much indeed. Carla Denia.
Dennis, you're right. The NHS is in crisis. And the Conservatives' answer of a workforce plan doesn't help when they're refusing to pay healthcare workers properly. They're pouring water into a leaky bucket because people are leaving the service for better pay and better conditions elsewhere. It also doesn't help what Labour are proposing, opening the door to more privatisation in our health service. The answer is investment, and that's why the Green Party is clear that we would make transformative investment into not only the NHS, but also social care, which helps take the pressure off the NHS. The Green Party will always stand for an NHS for people, not profit.
Thank you, Carla Denia.
Good answer.
Oh, that was a
Excellent
good, confidently
answer.
produced answer. I like that, yes.
Exactly.
Thank you,
The
Dennis,
leaky
for your
bucket.
question.
The leaky bucket statement saying, well, what they're going to be doing is the people are just going to leave unless they pay people. That's the real crux of it, yeah. And that's day-to-day spending. That will require taxation to be able to fund.
Yeah. And I feel slightly sorry for whatever she's going to have to say now. Whatever nonsense they've been told by HQ to say. Good luck, Ange.
The NHS is one of our proudest achievements, and it'll become Labour that will have to fix it again. Before I was an MP, I was a Unison rep and I was a home care worker, and in 2010 the Tories, aided and abetted by the Lib Dems, created austerity.
Was it Unison who failed to sign off on the manifesto?
That was Unite.
Oh, close.
I mean, Unison are fine. They're not like a melt union, but they're not like one of the good ones either.
They're
Unison
not
are
great.
fine.
Unison, because some of the unions that got absorbed into it, because it's a relatively new one, it's an amalgam of previous ones. One of them was management union as well, so like there's some maltiness in the mixture.
But yeah, it's
whereas Unite was like all industrial workers basically.
It's true. But Unison isn't GMB or Ostor. Like, it's fine.
No, the GMB, known as the Good Management Boys, of course.
Indeed. I'm glad that Angela is rinsing the Lib Dems, though. You know what we love on this stream? We love a bit of Lib Dem slander.
And rightly so.
Absolutely,
rightly so.
fuck 'em.
Absolutely pointless.
The piss
Why do they
diamonds.
exist? Why do they exist?
Many of our workforce were made redundant, and now we've got the crisis in the NHS. So we've got to fix the workforce problem, and we've got to invest. That's why we're then the non-dom tax status. So we can put 40,000 new appointments, and we'll use up private sector to bring down those waiting lists. But the NHS will remain a public service under Labour, and we'll also fix the problem in our social care. Because if you don't take the two together,
Angela, you say that, but at the Clause 5 meeting, the Labour right took out the phrase in the manifesto that stated the NHS isn't for sale. So, don't know if I believe you.
Well, yeah, well, because they want to keep their options open. That's all. They're not going to sell it. Why would they sell? That's crazy. No.
then you won't fix them. And we've also said on the VAT on private schools to give us 6,500 qualified teachers in our classroom to fix our education as well.
Thank you very much, Angela Rayner. Daisy Cooper.
Dennis, I have heard different versions of your questions time and time again. I hear from people all over the country. They're working hard.
She seems smiley and nice, but she is a Lib Dem. So don't be fooled, okay? It's like bright colours on a frog. Do not lick that frog.
They're striving, they're supporting their families, they're paying their taxes, and when they go to use their public services, whether it's the NHS, whether it's schools, whether it's the police or anything else, they're broken. They're completely broken, and nothing works. Now, in this election, we Liberal Democrats have said that our manifesto is a manifesto to save the NHS and social care. We're pledging £9 billion to invest upstream. We see on the TV all these disastrous pictures of people dying in the back of ambulances, suffering the indignity of corridor care because they can't see a GP, they can't see a dentist, and that's what we want to fix. So under Liberal Democrats, you'll have 8,000 more GPs, we'll fix the dental crisis, and we'll invest free...
Wow, 8,000 more imaginary people are going to be magicked into existence.
Woo, magic doctor tree.
social care so people can get all the care they need when they need it.
Daisy Cooper, thank you very much indeed. And just to return to Dennis's question, he was born around the time the NHS was founded. He's seen it all of these years.
He's very old.
Thank you, Dennis, saying it's now on its knees in so many other areas of public services, which we will also touch on beside the NHS. Things are just not working. This is what we've heard time and again from our questioners. The key thing that Dennis is asking is, do you...
She does quite like the sound of her own voice. Like, no offence, but we are not here to listen to you. Just hurry the fuck up.
Have ideas that are big enough. Angela Rayner.
Well, yes, we've also said not only do we need that investment, but we do need the reform. We need the technologies as well, because our NHS is world leading, and then we need to have those scanners and the new technology so that we can have the best possible care for people. That will also bring around, with that reform, efficiencies in the way that people work. So we're open to that to make sure that people get the support that they need. But we've got to fix the social care crisis as well.
But what Angela's refusing to admit there is what was referred to earlier, which is the Shadow Health Secretary essentially saying that he's going to hold the door open to the private sector. Now, that is not... He did say that, and that is not...
That's not true.
Where the answer
He literally
lies.
did.
Well, I'll answer that directly.
And when it comes...
He literally used those specific words. He said he wanted to go further than Tony Blair, Angela. So don't piss on my face and tell me it's raining.
True.
To staffing.
Let's just pause there and allow her to answer that directly, and then I'll come back to you.
I'll answer that directly. Wes Streeton has said, in order to bring the record high waiting list down, that we would use up capacity in the private sector to bring the... you're doing the thing you just said he wasn't going to do because reasons.
And on top of that, like they're doing this thing called insourcing, where they essentially allow people to go through private contracting using NHS facilities. It's just a fucking gigantic waste of money, like hiring a bunch of locum contracts. They're just incinerating money and throwing it down the bin. I hope Stephen Flynn brings up the lack of spare capacity thing, because it's never been called out until like today on Politics Live by Andrew Fisher.
The waiting list down, rather than keep people on waiting lists waiting for years for an operation that they desperately need.
Angela.
We think that's the right way.
Okay.
But it will always be a publicly owned NHS under Labour.
Angela, all of us are aware of what Wes has said, and you may deny it, but the reality is he said he wants privatisation that goes beyond just hospitals as well. And when we talk about staffing, because staffing is an enormous issue, the elephant in the room is the fact that it's not migration is the problem, it's the fact that we need more people coming in to work in our hospitals and to work in our social care sector, which has been decimated by your Brexit.
Isn't the point? All we want is for it to be free at the point of delivery. That's what matters. And actually, Labour are quite right to say, let's use the private sector to try and...
But Nigel, do you want that? Because you've never really shown a fantastic commitment to wanting that. In fact,
just so
many within your parties, UKIP and Now Reform, have said explicitly that they don't want that.
It's
and
so
you've
funny
never
to
gotten
me.
rid of them or censured them in any way.
It's so funny to me that we're just having this attack between Stephen Flynn and Angela Rayner over Labour's promise to use the private sector. Yet, you know, the Angela Rayner's knight in shining armour is coming over, Nigel Farage, to defend the Labour Party from attacks against privatisation.
He really is. He's been a godsend to the Labour Party this election cycle.
Yeah, praising Keir Starmer's immigration plans as well.
Yeah. Brilliant. Can't wait. So they're basically outsourcing fascism to the Labour Party.
Literally.
Oh.
reduce some of the waiting list. Why not actually give people tax relief on paying money into private insurance to relieve more of the pressure?
I chose my words carefully. It's the warm words which Wes Streeting has used to describe the role he sees it for the private sector in the NHS. And the problem with that, you see, is that if you're allowing the scarce funding that we all agree there is in the NHS to be leaked out of the NHS in private profit, rather than doing things like setting up the cancer system that Plaid Cymru proposes in this election, you're not serving the people that we're meant to be.
Thank you. Let me bring
I think this goes to the heart.
You get it.
Sure.
Because I think we should.
I've been quite impressed with him. Yeah. I mean, I've already had a relatively warm feeling toward Plaid Cymru anyway, even though I don't think Welsh nationalism is viable in the near future. But other than that, I've been impressed with him and their policy platform by the looks of things. Yeah.
So thank you for another £5 from UV Power. For Kevin making me laugh by being cheeky, your show is too funny. Socialists are funnier than capitalists. Me, Kevin, Novara, and Owen are great. Well, I appreciate another £5. That's very, very,
Wait,
very
hang
generous
on.
of you.
Why does No Justice get £5 when I made you laugh? That's not how you don't. If someone's busking, you don't give someone else money. What the fuck?
Well, get monetized on YouTube then, Kev.
Oh, wrecked. There's no coming
Dagged.
back. Okay, can someone ring me an ambulance? I need to get to the fucking Burns unit.
should just keep
Privatised
political
Burns
dogma
unit.
out
Yeah, if you ring one now, it might arrive by next fucking week.
of the public
Thanks,
sector
Penny.
and public services. The public, we're all politicians up here, but most of the public don't care what colour the cat is. They just want some mice caught. That's what they want. They want results.
What the fuck what is that analogy? What the fuck are you talking? It's worse than cake. They don't care what colour the cat is. They want some. You're a fucking mental. You're a mental.
That's very strange. Also, by the way, I'd like to point out, Kev, Oman are 43 for 8 against England. At one point, Mark Wood had 3 runs for 2 wickets. Three wickets for 2-1, sorry.
Well, that run rate's going to go well. It's just a shame that Australia are going to throw the game against Scotland to knock us out. You know what? I respect the bants. Hazelwood is absolutely bang on. I'd be for England doing it the other way. Fuck it.
Yeah.
And in my experience, listening to people who are actually doing these jobs, police officers who have reduced crime by half over the time we've been in office, healthcare professionals who are coming up with amazing initiatives in our hospitals and in our GP surgeries.
Who you've refused to even meet with and negotiate contracts? No? Okay.
Teachers who are responsible. We now have 90% of our schools are good or outstanding.
Scouser, thank you for the bitty bits, much appreciated. But also, when you say we will throw against Scotland, you're from fucking Liverpool. Who's we now? You've gone full traitor, I say. Oh, okay. No, I fucking see you.
Listen to the professionals in these services. Keep political dogma out of it.
Thank you. I'll come to you in a moment, Carl Dennett. On that issue of private involvement in the NHS, speak to Penny Mordaunt from the Lib Dems perspective. Daisy Cooper.
Well, to be honest, where there is capacity in the private sector, we could be using some of it in order to bring down the waiting list. But let's not kid ourselves. There is very limited capacity in the private sector, and we should be using it.
Oh no, it's the Lib Dems again. What's
is
going on?
Is this Comrade Cooper coming to the rescue with salient points about this? Good lord.
If only her party hadn't passed the Lansley reforms in Parliament, we might not be in this mess.
Curious, yes.
If it guts more capacity from the NHS. One of the problems we've had over the last few years, as you know, is that the Conservatives have absolutely gutted primary care. Some people go to see their GP. Your party promised 6,000 more GPs. We now have fewer per head. We have dentists fleeing the NHS and working privately because the dental contract is so broken and hasn't been fixed. Boris Johnson stood on the steps of Downing Street and promised to fix social care once and for good, and he hasn't, and it's now in crisis. So our plan is to fix the front.
To be fair, when you're getting gobbies at number 10, your mind's not going to be on the job, is it? Well, it's going to be on a job, but that's a different matter entirely.
True, but on top of that, it's like, again, these seem like empty words coming from somebody who was a literal collaborator with the government that did all of the damage. Like, again, like she's here saying, oh, the Conservatives have stripped out all of this primary care from the NHS. Yeah, when was this damage done? This was damage done from 2010 to 2015 when you were literally in coalition with them.
Neoliberalism.
Like, they've put more funding in since Boris Johnson became Prime Minister than you took away when You were in coalition. Like, this is an argument you can't make, Daisy. Also, thank you, Phil, for the £5. You'll give Kev a tenner if he does anything you say. Capitalism. Gauntlet thrown open there from Phil.
If he does anything you say, what? What does that mean?
As in, Phil wants to pay you £10 to obey his commands.
Oh, well, it depends what they are. We'll discuss. We'll discuss. We need to negotiate.
Door with more GPs and dentists, and to fix the back door by fixing social care.
Okay, quick response
And that
from
is
Penny, then I want to bring in
what we
Carla
are doing.
Dania.
We have grown the number of healthcare professionals.
And they're
We
leaving.
have-
It's one in, one out.
We have 70,000
Yep.
more nurses.
You're pouring into a leaky
we
bucket.
we have a dental recovery plan.
No, Daisy, you fucked that one up. Carla got it right. You're pouring it into a leaky bucket. Pouring water into an
Don't
empty
open
bucket
your
is
back
actually how
door.
you fill a bucket. You've totally fucked that up. Okay. I mean, fine, it's a small point, I know, but yeah.
Not working.
New providers coming in, and also mobile services now. This is the only way.
What about the junior
people
doctors?
having a
What about
workforce
the 40 new hospitals?
This is the only
Hosted
way we are going to get waiting lists down. What won't get waiting lists down is cutting the budget and taxing healthcare professionals, which is what Labour will do.
Thank you. Carla Dania, you have a big offer on the spending for the NHS. There are a lot of questions about that. Talk us through your big idea for the health service.
First of all, I want to say to Penny, decent investment in public services is not political dogma. It's common sense. It's what people want
I'm not
to
saying
see.
that. I'm
It's
saying
what
having
people
a
want
row
to
about the
see.
sectors
I'll just
is
finish.
wrong.
Sorry.
Decent investment in public services is common sense.
What we just saw was a very short person beasting a taller person. And
Absolutely,
I appreciate
absolutely.
that. Small
Absolutely.
queens everywhere. You fucking shine.
Absolutely.
It's what the public want to see, an NHS well-funded in public hands
I'm
so
actually
that it can
very
do its job.
right-wing, and I
Dennis
loved
was
it.
trying to get out of the panellists tonight what our big ideas are. The Green Party's big idea is decent investment in public services, and we're not afraid to say where it'll come from. We want to make the economy fairer so that the billionaires and multimillionaires, those with the broader shoulders who can easily afford to, pay a bit extra to fund the public services that we rely on.
They'll leave the country. They're leaving already, even under a Conservative.
Okay, well, we tax them upon leaving.
Well, yeah, and again, like, people say things like, "Oh, well, they'll leave the country. What, they're going to take all of the property and that they own? Like, what was it? Is Roman Abramovich going to take Stamford Bridge back to Russia?
He literally did. He literally went out with. He had Didier Drogba under his arm, which didn't even make sense because we haven't played for Chelsea for years. But I just couldn't think of current Chelsea player off the top of my head.
Conservative government, we've got a brain drain, the likes of which we haven't had since 1978.
Can I come back on that
And if Labour are
specifically?
impacted.
The thing is, the brain drain that we have isn't for people being taxed too much, just because wages aren't high enough. Like, lack of investment, too much austerity is what's taken money out of the economy. It's pushed down the graduate premium, for example. So working professionals, people who pay income tax, they've left the UK for pastures greener because we have not provided them with good wages because of our stagnant economy. People who own loads of assets, they love it here because the assets continue to appreciate because our governments keep pumping QE into their pockets to be able to inflate the asset prices. They are not leaving. Our brain drain is in working professionals, and state investment into our better society would fix that problem.
True. Also, lovely pause there. For my audience, I'm not sure yours will get this, but it's the fantastic bathtub statue thing of Nathan Bedford Forrest. He now looks like that. Which, again, you either get that reference point or you don't.
Power, maybe with your support, what'll happen is even more will leave. Just taxing the rich doesn't solve this. And everyone here is talking
Nigel,
about more money, more investment.
just let him finish,
I'm
I'll bring
telling
you
you,
back.
we've massively increased investment in the NHS for a worse return. It's not just about money.
Carla Dania.
Which I did say about reform as well.
I'll introduce some facts to this debate.
I
When
just
the
did.
rules on non-dom status were changed in this country in 2017, there was no difference in who was leaving the country amongst those that were affected by that change and those who weren't.
Nonsense.
No, that's true.
They're leaving now.
Angela Rayner, you wanted to come in on that point that was just raised by...
Just, yeah, you can just say things. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's all these arguments about capital flight, and just no one produces evidence for these things.
Yeah.
Raised by Nigel Farage.
Yeah, because I think it.
Also, why is it not patriotic? Like, why am I a traitor for saying maybe we should allow more migrants in? But someone who literally goes, "You're taxing me slightly more. I'm going to the Cayman Islands. That's fine." We just have to accept that. Nigel, what happened to your patriotism here, friend? Aren't we all supposed to muck in?
Well, yeah, because we were remember, we used to have like a 90% like corporation tax rate. We used to have like 90% income tax rate on like the highest of high earners. Did people leave the country because of that? Did we give a flocking of rich people to the UK to pay a lower tax rate when we lowered it under Thatcher? No, they didn't do anything to change the demographics of people who were paying the tax at all. All it did do was mean the people who had all of the wealth made sure they kept all of it and poured that into assets so that they owned everything as well.
I think we do have to invest in our public services, and we've said that. Austerity was very damaging for our public service and actually cost us more in the long run, and people are not getting the care that they need. But we do need reform, and we do need the new technologies that will help as well to bring those efficiencies in.
Your party is committed to continuing with £18 billion worth of public sector. Don't shake your head. This isn't my words, this is the IFS. The IFS have outlined the conspiracy of silence between the Labour Party and the Conservative Party on £18 billion worth of public sector cuts. How is that going to help public sector services?
I really do think, actually, to that point, Kev, I think Stephen Flynn is like the best like rhetorical politician in the country. Like, is there anyone better at like taking apart his opponents in these kind of debates than Stephen is? Like in the dispatch box as well. Like, yeah,
Surgeon was pretty good back in the day, but obviously she's not active for husband-related reasons, and other things, I guess. But he's pretty good. Yeah.
I think Scottish accent does help.
A thick Scottish accent and looking like if you argue too strongly with him, he might glass you. Also, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think he would. I'm not saying he is that way, but like, he looks like he can handle it.
Yeah.
Directly on that point about the £18 billion worth of cuts that Stephen Flynn he is pointing to.
Yes, because at the moment we've had flat growth and really poor growth in this country, and we're not going to be able to tax our way out of the disastrous situation the Tories have left us in. But what we are going to do is we're going to have a growth strategy with an industrial strategy.
Just grow the economy.
I mean,
that's the panacea.
Thing is, it wouldn't be unreasonable to say we have no growth, we should grow the economy. This is fine. The issue, of course, as we say, is the reason why we have the meme of the grow the economy big red button is because they never say how they're going to do it. Industrial strategy isn't the same as, are we going to fund a bunch of these things? And again, it's like expecting a plant to grow before you water it. Now, that's what the public spending is for, Angela.
Yep.
Strategy with a skills strategy which will enable us to grow the economy so that we can pay for our public services. We can't tax our way out of this. We've got the highest tax burden
But that is
in
exactly
70
what
years.
you're going to do.
Good.
Well, okay. Fuck me. When you're getting heard by fucking Nigel Farage, how do you not like throw up? Like, honestly, I would tear my hair out if that ever happened to me. Jesus.
Yeah, indeed.
The black hole of 38.5 billion. Their manifesto was published today.
Black holes.
Labour's manifesto was published today. 38.5 billion is the tax gap in their plans. And the only way, because public spending is going to have to go up, that's the demand. The only way they are going to be able to do that is to raise taxes. They've only declared about a quarter of the taxes they're going to put up. They're going to have to put up a lot more, and they haven't yet told you how they're going to do that. We can't afford that. You
can't afford another 5 years.
Oh, God. If I have to listen to these two chickens clucking at each other again for another hour, like the first time, it's just insufferable. This is the level of politics we have. This is the national discourse.
Is the Tories. You're promising tax cuts when you've already done that once and crashed the economy once. You've already done that once. But we've made it absolutely
working household.
You know what? When it comes to tax, the Conservatives have made a very clear choice to increase taxes on working.
Also, did you hear that? She said 2,000. So the exact same number. How coincidental. The exact same number that you made up before the manifesto, you're now claiming is exactly the same after the manifesto. It's almost as if you have a pre-prepared line that you're just going to stick with and repeat over and over and over and over. It's a lie. What you're doing is lying.
people
That's
on
not
struggling
true.
families. That's happened
That's not
more
true.
and more times. You have raised
That's not
tax
true.
to the highest level in almost 80 years.
tax
What Liberal Democrats,
burden-
what Liberal
That's
Democrats
not
have
true.
said
I'll have
is
to
that we would
respond to
not
that directly.
increase taxes on struggling families during a cost of living crisis,
That
but
is
we would
not
look to
true.
the big banks, to the big tech companies
let's-
who can pay a little bit more to fund our public
Thank
services.
you. I will come back to you. I will come back to you very shortly. I just want to take a quick pause on that point. And actually, I know Rena,
If I could make it, I had to draw attention to the analogy with the cats and the mice here. What we've seen under the Conservatives for 14 years is the fat cats getting rich and getting the
True.
I fear that with privatisation in the NHS, we're going to see the same under Labour.
You, in an interview last night
True.
on a colleague's channel, said that tax is a good thing when it comes to public services. Tell the other people on this.
Hang on a minute. Hang on. Have we reduced ourselves
Apple,
down
right, you
to the
believe-
level of children now? You're saying that tax is good for public services. How the fuck do you think we've been funding them exactly? How do you think any of this gets paid for at all? Are we going to have to do some like civics 101 with all of the politicians now? Right, so there's a thing called the government, and it has a right to levy taxes against the citizens that then take, like really take them through the basics.
Tax is a good thing.
This is the honesty that we
Is
need.
tax
in this
a
debate.
good
We can't
thing?
have a decent NHS. We can't
Oh,
have good schools unless we
God.
have a fair taxation system that brings the money in to pay for those services.
He did. I just said that. He did the. Yes. Good man.
The taxation system has to be fair. We have to have honesty, and the taxation has to be fair in that the weight is borne by the shoulders of those who have the broadest shoulders, be it corporates or the very, very wealthy.
We have to spend money wisely. Just pump. Folks, I've explained to you, we've massively increased over the last few years the percentage of the national cake we put into the NHS for a worse return. Does nobody else acknowledge we need to spend the money better?
Of course we do. That's why Liberal Democrats are saying you invest it upstream.
It's not wrong
because prevention is better.
necessarily, but like we know what you mean by that, Nigel.
Again, like, it is not wrong, as you say, but the problem is, of course, like crony contracts, the Michelle Moans of this world, like PPE that gets incinerated. That's where a lot of the budget has gone. And of course, again, we're also just, as we've also been said by Angela Rayner, we're mopping up the mess further down the line because the cuts we made from 2010 to 2015, Daisy. Like, this is the issue.
Yeah.
It's not an issue.
Better than cure. If you have more GPs, you solve the dental crisis, you have access to mental health hubs in communities, people can access care when they need it, and you don't end up firefighting all the problems in A&E, in ambulances and hospitals. That's the problem that we've had under the Conservatives. They've gutted primary care and everybody has ended up in hospital because they can't get the treatment they need upstream.
I'd like
Yep. I mean, it's that's one example of the false economy of austerity, certainly.
to know from Angela, why so timid? Why wait for economic growth when you could introduce a tax that doesn't affect those on average incomes or low incomes?
Yep.
It only affects the billionaires and multimillionaires. It could raise tens of billions of pounds. Why won't Labour even consider it?
OK, Angela Rayner.
I've never been called timid in my life, but coming back to the point that
But your economic policy is piss water.
I mean, I will say one thing about Angela Rayner. Despite all of the betrayals, all of the traitoring that she's done, all of her like abandoning of her principles, she is kind of adorable when she says.
No,
things like,
absolutely. That's not,
yeah.
I
it's
might,
really great.
I might dip out and watch Finster. Well, look, as long as you're watching A. Brummie, that's fine. I don't mind either way.
True.
Okay, much love. Also, let's be honest, way hotter. I think so. Hang on, where are we? What was the thing? Sorry, someone said thing. Was she in the coalition? I'm not sure if Daisy Cooper was an MP at the time. I'm not sure, but she stands by that shit. And Ed Davey definitely was. So fuck them.
Nigel made and Daisy was making the same point. Look, I was a home care worker. We gutted out home care services. It costs so much more money now that people are stuck on trolleys in A&E for 40 hours plus. These are our elderly relatives that are treated really poorly, and it costs us more money. So if we put the money in the right place, we can actually make savings. I did that when I was a home care and trade union rep. I know we can do it again, but at the moment we're hemorrhaging money.
Okay, the trade union rep is beginning to feel a little bit dad toolmakery. Just
I mean, it's only a couple.
Don't overplay it, is what I'm
I mean,
saying.
I mean, you're absolutely right. Absolutely. But to be fair to her, I mean, this is like the first time you've ever seen anybody from the Labour front bench mention anything to do with the trade unions, because the Labour right are petrified of looking too Scargilly. And I'm like, well, at least she, being the only person who's not from like the furthest of the right wings of the Labour Party, because she's been elected there. And the fact that she's actually saying it and proud of it is a line that you don't usually hear from Labour Party politicians nowadays.
Talking of being Scargilly, did you see the one little thing they've sort of thrown, the scrap they've thrown to trade unionists in the manifesto, which was they're going to have an investigation into the Orgreave, the massacre, you know, the police violence against the striking miners in Orgreave, to get to the truth. They have not said that they will ever prosecute anybody, just that they want the truth of Orgreave to be known. So, you know, that's literally the one thing they've given the unions there. And apparently it's enough for some of the cucks to be like, oh, that's fine, yeah, no leftism, cool.
Because the money is being used in the most inappropriate way, and people are not getting the care that
All right,
they deserve.
thank you very much indeed for that. I just
But
want
Angela
to
is going to raise your
thank you. I'm
taxes.
just going to return
That
to
gap has to be
We are
closed.
anchoring. Thank you. We're anchoring all of
I don't think they were laughing with you there, Penno. I don't think so.
our debate tonight in the questions that have been so kindly provided by our audience, which we're very grateful for. It was clear, actually, when Dennis was putting...
Daisy Cooper was not part of the coalition. She was only elected in 2019, but she's deputy leader, and she stands by that shit. So yeah, you know, you'd say, you know, when someone becomes prime minister, you take on the historical crimes of Britain. That's just the way it fucking goes.
True. Also, I'd like to point out, I was just looking back through the Lib Dem manifesto. They have skills wallets. They've not. It's a different name, but they're bringing back the skills wallets. Chat.
Awesome. Can we get a 6p bag tax? Let's dream.
Increase it with inflation.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, an 8p bag tax. Let's go.
In that question, as I alluded to earlier, it's not just the NHS, of course, that he's talking about. He's talking about a whole range of public services. We've received messages from hundreds of teachers across the United Kingdom. They are all saying schools are in crisis, that there are not enough teachers. We even had a message from a 12-year-old who said his school is literally crumbling. Be honest, do you think our education system is still...
This is the problem. I mentioned this when we were looking over the manifesto earlier. This is what I mean about them nibbling around the edges of problems, right? Breakfast clubs, there's nothing inherently wrong with a breakfast club as an idea. You know, any kind of spending on education and getting kids food and stuff, good, awesome. But when they're in buildings that are potentially going to collapse on them, do you not think there are other issues you could also tackle that you're not addressing at all?
Yeah, it's pretty small fry, isn't it?
It's dream as small as you possibly can.
World class. Penny Mordaunt.
I think it is world class, and we have improved. Well,
again, I don't think they're laughing with you.
Literacy rates were trailing the world. Now they are leading them. We have 90% of our schools are good or outstanding, and we have undertaken an enormous refurbishment programme. I mean, just in my own patch, we've rebuilt several schools. We have a university technical college. Investment has gone in, and we've also increased the numbers of teachers that we have. 30,000 more teachers.
I'm actually very
that is
right-wing,
absolutely
and I
vital.
loved it.
And education standards are going up as a direct consequence of that.
There's been some difficult questions for the SNP on education. Stephen Flynn.
Well, of course, when we look at education in the round, the biggest difference that exists between the SNP and what happens in Scotland and the Labour Party and the Conservative Party and what happens in Westminster and England is the fact that for our young people in Scotland, they go to university and they don't pay a single penny in tuition fees.
But your schools have fallen down the international
absolutely life-changing. And I don't know if the Lib Dems agree with tuition fees or not. They've got quite a record in that regard. I'm sure you can elaborate upon it for all of them.
Yeah, no, they don't agree with it 3 times over.
But Daisy Cooper, respond to Stephen Flynn. Do you talk to Stephen Flynn?
Well, on the question of tuition fees, we were punished for that. That's democracy. I get that.
Do you still believe in free tuition, though?
As I say, on the point of tuition fees, we were punished for that, right?
Wait, what's
your fucking position, robot? Tell me.
Position now? What's your policy now?
In 2015, when we were out of coalition, The thing that the Conservatives did on their own is they removed maintenance grants, the grants that were there for the
Okay,
Not
what
question.
what the Tories believed in 2015 is not what you believe in 2024. You have fundamentally failed to grasp any of the solid points of the question. Ironically, you would fail a university exam on this. I'm just saying.
poorest students to give them a shot at going to university. And we have said that we would put those back in place. But when it comes to education, we will not take lessons from the SNP.
You still believe that people should have tens of thousands of pounds of debt?
Schools have fallen down the international rankings rapidly.
Carla Daniel.
The teachers that have written in are right. Like almost all of our public services, our education system has been run into the ground. And I was really glad to see the National Education Union came out yesterday to welcome the Green Party Manifesto. It said that the Green Party Manifesto is the only party manifesto out so far that meets the scale of the challenges in the education sector. And it's time to invest in teachers, in their pay, in school buildings, in making schools more than just exam factories and giving them young people what they need for life.
Nigel Farage.
True.
Really, really good points. I think she's doing well here. I like this.
She's much better than the last time.
Well, she was a bit nervous, I think. And to be fair, when you're in the Green Party, you're not used to being on the international stage like that. Oh, wait, it's international. You know what I mean? Like you'll be talking to millions of people rather than. No offense to the Green Party, but like I imagine they're not pulling in unbelievably huge crowds every week, you know.
Plus, at one point, it certainly isn't now. It's gone right down the international rankings. Look, there is a problem. We know the buildings, the rack concrete, all of that, but we are back to the subject that nobody wants to discuss: the exploding population,
immigration,
our schools, our class sizes getting bigger. Of course.
Oh, I just stubbed my toe. Fucking immigrants.
You know, actually, you know what? Some of those immigrants, Kev, though, some of them might be tool makers. We can't have any more Keir Starmers running around.
True, exactly. We can't be allowing them to breed.
By the way, thank you. Sorry, thank you, Lewis, for the £2 super chat. More skills wallets for the skills wallets gods, and Sergey Meerkat for the £5. Notice they talk over the people talking sense. Funny that, very true.
Of course, we've recruited more teachers. We need more teachers with an exploding population, and it's a constant problem that none of the other panellists even want to discuss.
Angela Rayner, tell Nigel Farage about the policy that you have on finding new teachers.
Well,
why
first
Nigel
of all,
Farage?
I respectfully disagree that.
Yeah, why Nigel Farage? Yeah, I don't get that.
We have the exploding population in our schools. We have falling roles in our schools at the moment, actually, and that is a problem for many of our primary schools. But what we've said is that we would end the VAT tax break on private schools to put 6,500 qualified teachers in the classroom. We've got teachers teaching lessons that they're not qualified in at the moment.
Yeah.
We think that every child should have a qualified teacher in the classroom. And we had the Tories who knew and were warned about RAC and the problems with our schools' buildings at the moment. We've got more temporary classrooms because of that, because they did nothing, but they cut the capital budget for schools at the same time, knowing full well that there was dangers with RAC buildings.
Okay, Nigel Farage.
True, that's a really important point.
You know, if you put 20%...
Really important point, that, specifically because Rishi Sunak was the person who was Chancellor of the Exchequer when he explicitly, his choice to cut the budget away from the school's capital investment budget. Like,
No, I'm going to have to step in and disagree with you here, actually. I don't think you can hold Rishi Sunak responsible for any of this, okay? You're out of order. Sorry, I was being paid £10 to strongly disagree with you about something I didn't believe.
But yeah, like at the end of the day, like, there were plans for 400 schools to get renovated in the capital budget, and Rishi Sunak, as Chancellor, deliberately, we all know that it was literally his choice to take that money away and reduce the number of renovations down to 50 as Chancellor of the Exchequer, and now he's the Prime Minister telling you that he's going to solve the problem. Like, it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. Thank you, Fabe, 1888, for giving me £10 to say lies. Thank you.
Private school fees, all you'll finish up with are a lot more, probably 25% of those currently in private school will then be a burden for state schools. It is a self-defeating policy that removes parental choice.
Okay.
Well, Nigel, those schools could...
You can still choose to go to private school, Nigel.
And have cuts and cuts. Those schools...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's not being taken away. Look, I personally would. I would crumble Eton down and use it for fucking kitty litter, but
True.
But none of the major parties are planning to take away private, either healthcare or education as things. So it's not that you're just you're full of shit, basically.
And also on things, what's important as well is specifically is the money they don't spend on private education is now going to get spent on other commodities, goods and services that are taxable with VAT. So this increase in VAT is going to create more money for the exchequer regardless of whether people take their kids out of private school or not. So the overall budget for state schools will absolutely increase because of this policy, regardless of how many people just take all of their kids out of private education.
Yeah.
Could absorb some of those costs, so they didn't have to pass it on to all of the people.
So you're happy with more pupils going into the state sector?
But we cannot afford.
Yeah, we can actually just fund that. Yeah, that's
Exactly.
fine. I want all of the kids to go into the state sector.
Yeah.
100% of them, ideally. Yeah.
To give private schools a tax break when our state system cannot have the right teachers in the classrooms that
must
they
bring in
deserve.
Penny Mordaunt now.
In addition, in 2010, in addition to there being no money left, IFOI, the Department of Education, about the Building Schools for the Future programme, they weren't even looking at secondary schools in that programme. And what Angela and the Labour Party are going to do is, unbelievably, they are going to tax education. The result of that is...
Right, private education.
Which is funded fine. Like, the private education sector doesn't have any rack concrete problems, funnily enough, and the standard of education is much higher, and the funding per pupil is like factors of 10 more than you get funding per pupil in the state sector. Yeah, they quite frankly, they should be having money taken away from them. They've got plenty of money already.
Are you sure? Are you sure they're not having the kids at Harrow aren't having to do their mathematics lessons in temporary accommodation with drippy roofs? Because you know what I mean, it's outrageous. Well, it's like with Rishi Sunak and his Sky TV stuff, right? Can you believe during the 1980s, right? Bob Geldof held a concert for Ethiopians, and at no point did he even bother raising any money to get Sky TV for Rishi Sunak.
Quite
disgusting.
Yes, some families will not be able to send their kids to the schools they're currently going to, but also they've admitted this week class sizes will go up as a consequence. It's crazy. It doesn't serve anyone, and it's the kind of dogma that we need to keep out of the public sector.
Penny Mordaunt, thank you. Rhea Nappior.
Wales was one of the first literate countries in the whole world, and it pains me to see what's happened in the 25 years of Labour ministers in Wales, and it pains me again.
The first literate countries in the... Hang on, is it going back like 1,000 years or something now? We invented language. All right, weird flex, bro. Okay.
And to see the impacts of public spending.
It's like the Sumerians just going, cuneiform bitches. Don't even fucking start with me.
Funding cuts by the Conservative government. Now, I don't know how Angela Rayner thinks half an extra teacher in every school in England will make a difference to the standards of education. But I'll tell you one thing, we need, and both my parents were teachers, we need, just as in health, to make sure that our workforce feel supported. It's in good wages, but it's also in knowing that government is on their side, and neither in Wales nor in the rest, nor in England, can they say that that's the case.
Well, okay, no, I'm going to in our manifesto we have the school support staff negotiating body, which is around the whole of the support staff as well as teachers, which I believe will make a difference.
Thank you very much. We've had so many thoughts and debates within that question about public services. We've had thousands of questions from our viewers about the scale of the problems in the public services against the backdrop of a pretty squeezed financial situation. I know that everybody here and at home will have listened with great interest in what you've had to say. All of those perspectives, from reform to spending to tax, a lot of things to think about. Do stay with us. After the break, we will be talking about immigration,
there's a break.
politics,
6, we can skip through
and
it.
yes, Brexit.
You'll have to see it.
And didn't Nigel Farage already spend that entire time talking about immigration? Didn't that already happen? We're not even getting the adverts because it's on YouTube. Oh, ITV getting advert cooked by YouTube.
The hashtag ITV debate. Now let's get straight on to our next question from Christine from Manchester. Christine.
I keep hearing migration levels are too high and getting higher, and it's a strain on public services. But I understand we as a country need some foreign workers. What are you going to do?
Thank you very much indeed, Christine.
A fair question. Both
Thanks,
sides.
Christine.
What
And
wokeism is now infested all levels. It's an outrage. You can't say anything positive about immigration. All foreign people are evil. Fact.
what we need at the moment is a skills strategy. We've not had an industrial and skills strategy. So what we've had is we've been over-reliant on our economy from overseas workers to fill our skills gap. And they've done a tremendous job in doing that, and we have needed that. But what we really need, as unemployment levels have gone higher again, is we need to really match those skills and give people opportunity to take those jobs. And that's what Labour's industrial and skills strategy is about. It's about not relying on overseas workers, and we'll always have overseas workers that come and help us, but we also need to have a strategy on how we skill up people here in the UK.
Thank you very much indeed, Angela Rayner. Nigel Farage.
Well, it's funny Angela Rayner says that because Labour today launched their 6 key priorities for the general election and didn't mention the single most important issue affecting the lives of everybody in this country, namely the population explosion caused direct...
Jesus Christ, that's the one issue, is it?
It's not even the most important. Like, the biggest important issue in every single poll, apart from Reform UK voters specifically, is the cost of living crisis under the NHS.
Yeah. Also, it definitely did get mentioned, secure borders. I'm literally reading from it right now. Britain is a tolerant, compassionate country. We have proud tradition, blah, blah, blah. Rather than a serious plan to confront the crisis, the Conservatives offered nothing but desperate gimmicks. Their flagship policy, a tiny number of asylum seekers going to Rwanda. Labour will stop the chaos and go after criminal gangs. Like, it's literally in the manifesto. What is he talking about? It wasn't one of the pointless bullet points. Okay, so what?
Directly by migration. The reason we voted Brexit and the reason Penny's party got the massive majority in 2019 is we voted to reduce the numbers coming in, and the numbers have exploded. I mean, honestly, unbelievable.
Well, and the media attacking the opposition leader as an anti-Semite and a terrorist for 5 years, you know.
1 in 30 people walking on the street out there has come in the last 2 years alone. The answer is we have to have net migration at 0. It means skilled workers can come, we can go and work abroad. We have to have a freeze on the total numbers of those coming in.
Thank you very much. Carla Daniel.
Christine, you're right. Our economy needs migration. Migration does change communities. In my view, that is a positive. However, I understand it can be unsettling, especially when change happens fast. And it can be particularly unsettling when the government doesn't invest properly in our public services.
No, to be fair, modernism, and I'm not being paid to disagree with you here. I am genuinely disagreeing with you. Why is he relevant in 2024? Well, as he pointed out at the start, some of the polling has his political party, for all of their shitness, in second place.
Yep.
That's relevant. That is relevant. The Green Party are relevant, and they're in like 4th place, 5th place, you know?
Yep, exactly.
That's the way it goes, you know? In a genuinely proportional system, this motherfucker would be a kingmaker. Because
exactly.
No way anyone would get a majority.
He is the leader of a political party that is second in the polls.
Yeah, that's relevant, you know. It's like I said yesterday that what Rishi Sunak says doesn't matter. Unfortunately, what Nigel Farage says kind of does in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, thank you, Baz Cams, Spexbeam Farmer, Raboozle, and Thomas Jerome Newton for the super chats and for the subs. Attack Farage on Brexit, it was a tax scam. I mean, I think that it was genuine in his desire to leave the European Union, but there are plenty of people who made away scot-free out of the changes that
it was
Brexit.
a scam. It was a scam for people like
Boris Johnson,
Jacob Rees-Mogg, or Boris Johnson. Like Jacob Rees-Mogg, he campaigned for this, fought for it, and then just before the rules changed, his company fucked off to incorporate in Dublin.
It did indeed.
So, or the Dyson, who literally did a free trade deal with, fucked off to Europe so that he could involve himself in the free trade deal with Singapore that the EU had just done. Like they're scumbags. But I think from Nigel Farage's position, what you can't say is that he hasn't been committed to that point. His entire post-wanker banker life has been trying to get Britain out of the EU and push his like right-wing agenda. I think he does genuinely believe it. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a member of the Referendum Party and UKIP and the Brexit Party and now Reform UK. Like the guy's committed to the bit.
He's a committed scumbag, or at least he should be committed. Heyo.
Heyo.
We think it's shameful when some politicians scapegoat the people who become our neighbours, our friends, our colleagues, to distract from their chronic underinvestment in public services. The solution isn't scapegoating or pulling up the drawbridge. The solution is investing in our communities to make sure everyone has access to the services they need. My party will never engage in that scapegoating rhetoric.
Thank you. Stephen Flynn.
So Scotland has a migration problem.
She's played it nicely so far, and actually, even well, they all have really. Even Daisy Cooper has done pretty well so far. Yeah, they've all had their moments.
The problem is we don't have enough migrants because Scotland has a declining working age population. So we need people to come. And you know what? I am genuinely fed up going to speak to businesses, going to speak to healthcare workers, going to speak to people in our social care sector, in our schools and beyond, who say that they need more colleagues. Businesses who want to expand, who need people to come and work with them and for them. That's why I'm in favour of migration. And this race to the right that is happening in Westminster is so...
Scouse Raw, behave yourself. I'm not the Lib Dem. Only one of the two people in this call has ever voted Liberal Democrat.
It's true. That's a true statement.
Fact.
So wrong. We can do better. We must demand better, not just from the Tories, but from the Labour Party too. And the SNP will always do that.
Thank you very much. Daisy Cooper.
Our NHS, our care service, hospitality, engineering, you name it, almost every single sector in this country is absolutely crying out for people with the skills that they need. And under this Conservative government, what has happened is they always pull the lever for immigration, and people come here and we should welcome them when they do and contribute to our economy, but they haven't invested in our domestic workforce. Liberal Democrats have a plan to give a higher minimum wage to care workers, £2 higher than the minimum wage for everybody else, so we can get people back working
Really funny,
in the
that
care
one.
sector.
That's an interesting and dumb policy, but okay.
That's still lower than the Green Party's minimum wage proposals for everybody. And to be fair, chat, I'm going to be critical of the Greens. I do not think that the £15 minimum wage is a reasonable policy. Like, if you want to actually do a minimum wage policy, then show your workings and say, well, we've got the studies from Arvind Dubey or whatever saying that you want to keep your minimum wage at 80% of the Cates Index. So you take the you want your Cates Index at 80%. So the minimum wage is 80% of the median wage, which in the UK would be about £14, right? I know it's only a pound difference, but if you can show that working, it makes the policy seem more credible. But even that would be above the minimum wage for care workers that Daisy Cooper wants. Yeah. And in the Labour Party, they have a plan for a collective bargaining agreement, like sectoral bargaining agreement for the entire care sector. That's Angela Rayner's union, that's Unison, right? So even Labour have a better plan for care workers' wages than Daisy Cooper does.
Which that should be natural. The Labour Party is supposed to be to the left of the fucking Liberals.
It's the only policy they are to the left of, yeah.
Well, exactly. That's unfortunately the case. For the vast majority of the last, 30 years, 35 years, they haven't really been to the left of the Liberal Democrats. And that tells us a lot about the ironclad consensus around neoliberalism.
Yep.
We want to create a Royal College of care workers so they've got a bigger, stronger voice and give them genuine vocation and training throughout their lifetime. We also need to have a skills lifetime account as well, because people need to retrain and reskill throughout their life. But when people come here to look after our loved ones, we should welcome them, but we must also invest in our domestic workforce at the same time.
Thank you, Daisy Cooper. Raina Abarth.
It's a very well-worded question, isn't it? I keep hearing that this is a problem, says Christine. And you know what? I think we need to heed and listen to people who have genuine concerns about the impact of the movement of population, pressures on public services. But we have to put that in the context of public spending cuts by the Conservatives. We have to look at the numbers of immigrants that we need to bring in for certain sectors in health and care and parts of the economy. Listen, I've been on a whistle-stop tour of Wales in the past week. You know, I try to listen to people, but the problem we have is that Nigel Farage here has been on a dog whistle tour of the UK for many years and exploited.
That's a good line. That's a solid. But look at Frog Boy. He didn't like it. He didn't like that one. Usually he's got a big smile on his face when someone attacks him, but when you really get under his skin,
the anxieties that people have, and we really need to change the way that we talk
I think
about
Flynn
this
liked
issue.
it as well.
It's making us poorer. That's the point.
Thank
It's
you.
making us poorer.
Thank you. We
It's
are
not. It's
doing
making
these
us. It's
answers
doing your
uninterrupted.
policy would make us poorer. You clown. Yeah, you won't make us richer. Have an ever declining productive workforce in this country. Who's going to pay the taxes for this gigantic glut of retired people? Who's going to continue the upkeep on public services if we have a shrinking population?
Well, they'll all fuck off to live in Alicante, so the Spanish can deal with it.
Yeah,
because Brexit didn't even happen apparently. Yeah.
I mean, to be fair,
thank
if
you.
your immigration plan, if your net zero immigration plan is welcome in a bunch of new NHS and care workers and get a bunch of right-wing boomers to fuck off and live in a timeshare in Spain, then you know what? Based, Nigel, absolutely, I'm absolutely down with that opinion.
I agree. You know what? I agree to his plan for net zero migration. We welcome in 1 million healthcare workers and we fuck off 1 billion wankers. Just go and live on the fucking Costa Brava. Go on. Apologies to the people of Spain, but you know, they've literally already taken over and colonised much of your coastline
No, but
anyway.
Pedro Sanchez's coalition might break down.
They won't have voting rights. It'd be fine. Also, they don't know. They wouldn't be able to speak the language. They haven't got a clue. They've got basically the English have colonized significant chunks of that coast. You can go there and it's just English pub, English breakfast bar, pub nightclub. You don't even have to speak Spanish. It's amazing.
Penny Mordaunt.
And public spending is going up. But you put the question very well, and I think whatever the public think about the numbers, what they want from their government and their parliament is to control access of foreign nationals to the UK.
And you have not done that conclusively for a decade now. Especially the last 5 years, it's gone crazy. Like, I don't agree with Nigel Farage's, that's a massive problem with, it's an existential crisis. They're taking over from the whites, which is basically the point. But they've been very significant numbers.
So what we are proposing is that every year Parliament will put a cap on the number of family and work visas, informed by what our workforces need, but also what pressures would be put on housing and community services. That way we can ensure that each year the numbers come down, and on our plans we are due to halve that number, halve migration by next summer. With us, you get a cap and a plan. With Labour, they have no cap, no number and no plan.
Okay. Thank you, Penny Mordaunt, for that. Just to return to Christine's question.
She's not, I'll be honest, she's setting herself up nicely for a leadership run. If she survives.
I mean, what's crazy,
no
right?
Tory MP is guaranteed to do.
It's crazy, right? As if she'd have just got like a couple more members of the Parliamentary Conservative Party to vote to support her in the leadership contest, the very first one. She would have had more support than Liz Truss, and it would have been Sunak versus Mordaunt. She would have won. She wouldn't have done all the fucking dumb shit that Rishi Sunak has done. And she would have been much better in Prime Minister's questions and in interviews, and the Tories wouldn't be staring down a wipeout. But because all of the Tory the Parliamentary Conservative Party members are just absolute fucking dingbats, to be nice to them, they decided to put the dumbest person in Parliament into the most powerful position in the country, and now the Conservative Party are going to be wiped out forever. They're behind Reform in the polling. They're projected to get like 20 seats. It's very funny.
It is very funny, but that's what you get when Boris Johnson did his purge. So it's now essentially the English National Party rather than the Conservative and Union Party, and they welcomed in the crazy motherfuckers like Lee Anderson and fucking Gullis and all the rest of it. What exactly did anyone expect to happen? Of course they're going to vote for crazy bastards like Liz Truss. You welcomed in the nutcases. You got rid of sensible, albeit twatty people like Ken Clarke, and you brought in Gullis. Like, what a step down. Whatever you thought of the politics of Ken Clarke, he was a serious politician. And now you've got people like Ben Bradley? Jesus Christ. Poor form.
She's hearing that migration levels are too high, getting higher, putting a strain on those public services. She understands as a country, she says, that we need some foreign workers. What are we going to do about it? Just before we get the debate flowing, please raise your hand If you think
Oh,
that
she's doing this thing again. Please raise your hand if you agree with.
All
net level of
Also, by the way, Kev, I'd like to give you an update. By the way, Oman were bowled out for 47, and England have chased it down in 3.1 overs.
That net run rate's going to be mental.
Yeah, England win by 8. England win by 8 wickets with 101 balls remaining.
20 over game. How?
It wasn't even a 20 ball game.
That's
It was
mental.
a 19 ball game.
That's incredible. Well, I mean,
2019 cricket. 20 overs versus 19 balls.
exactly. Yeah, that's what they mean by 2020. Yeah, that's the way. That's the way to level the playing field. It seems. So it's just going to make it even funnier when Australia throw the game against Scotland. Because the England run rate is going to be the best of any group ever. It's going to be amazing, and they're still going home.
legal migration, that is the additional number of people coming to the country to work and live, needs to fall.
They play
Please
for
raise
10
your
minutes.
hand. The number needs to fall.
What a sorry
Nigel
reflection.
Farage, Penny Mordaunt,
It's due to fall anyway.
Daisy Cooper, Angela Rayner.
The
Thank you very
Westminster
much.
status quo. That's
Thank
exactly.
you.
That's the Westminster
not at
status
all.
quo. Of course
No,
it is.
no,
The
no.
four
True.
main
Yeah, literally is. Yeah.
parties.
No, it isn't.
The four
No,
main
it isn't,
parties,
Stephen.
all with the exact
I welcome
same-
immigration because I think that people come here and they're more likely to prop up our public services and work in our public services rather than they are to put a
But didn't you put your hand up? Did I miss see that or something? Because she seems to be giving a different answer now.
drain on our public services. So I welcome immigration in this country because they contribute to our public service. But the numbers are due to come down anyway. But I think part of the reason we have so many people coming here, and I welcome them when they do, is because we're not investing in our domestic workforce, and we can do both at the
Yes,
same
bring up the
time.
skills
thank you. There was
wallets.
some pretty
This is your
strong
chance. This is your chance, Daisy. This is your chance to bring up skills wallets. We've been talking about the one thing that's the funny Lib Dem policy. Please talk about skills wallets.
Towards Nigel Farage about dog whistle tours and scapegoat politics. What's your response to that?
I'm just
Nigel
talking
Farage?
numbers. We haven't even mentioned housing yet.
But could you respond to that point?
Someone
No, I
click
ignore
the
that nonsense.
skills wallets bit.
Complete nonsense. I'm just talking pure facts. Housing. We have to build one new home every 2.
When you look, this will be the point when you step in and go, well, you didn't have a guy who's standing for you who said you should have been neutral against Hitler. Like, I don't know that you can necessarily just brush it off as nonsense, really. Your party does seem to have a problem with some political extremism, yeah?
Minutes just to cope with legal net migration under this Conservative government. It is literally impossible. And as for the
It's
numbers
not impossible.
coming in,
No.
I would respond
That's
this.
just the number of
50% the
council
750
houses that
million
we built. That's just the number of council houses that we built in the post-war period, Nigel. That's
Yeah.
fine. We've done that before. We could do it again.
Yeah.
who are coming in a year are dependents. They're not wealth creators. And mass migration is making us poor.
Right. Dependence doesn't mean we'll never be economically active. In fact, most of them are like children. So they
Yeah.
will become economically active because
Exactly.
we need young people.
And on top of that, a lot of them are dependents of people coming here to study, and they're not funding the expenditure that they need to be able to look after those dependents with benefits. They're funding that with foreign capital. They're spending foreign capital in the UK to do that.
Yeah. It's just, I'm from Stoke North. Gullis is my MP. I got a letter from him saying potholes are his priority.
True. So
Fair
thank you,
enough.
Thomas. Thank you, Thomas, for the 2,200 Chilean pesos. Same as the funds for the NHS after Brexit. Quite.
That is a very specific denomination, and I appreciate that.
You'll hear, oh, GDP's going up. Well, of course it is. There are more people. GDP per capita, our relative wealth, has declined for the last 6 consecutive quarters.
I hear
And
Nigel
this
talking a lot about.
does-
I hear Nigel Farage talking a lot about dependence.
Facts.
The
Also,
problem that we
pause
have in higher
again,
education
sorry.
now is that
Yes, GDP per capita is falling. That's because of austerity. That's an austerity problem, Nigel. There's nothing like you please show me the correlation and the method by which that you've decided that it's specifically immigration that is lowering our GDP per capita. Like, where is the calculation that makes this your reasoning for this? Whereas austerity is obvious. We've not grown our GDP as fast as population has increased. That's dropped GDP per capita, and we've not had a growing economy because of fucking austerity.
Also, it suggests that he wants some sort of I don't know, a more fair, equitable distribution of monies, which, considering one of his main policies is to get rid of all inheritance tax, does not suggest that he's being honest in this. There might be an ulterior motive behind his opposition to immigration.
Changes in visa requirements means that family members aren't able to come and study to accompany students to Welsh universities. That is causing major problems in terms of revenue for our higher education.
You shouldn't bring your mum. You come to university in Britain, you can't bring your mum, can you? I mean, come on.
They're not bringing children. Like, that's just a fucking stupid point there, Nigel. And again, they're bringing foreign capital for this. Foreign capital. They don't get benefits. They don't get benefits to come here as dependents.
The UK taxpayer is not paying for those dependents.
No, they are. Again, they're paying fucking Indian rupees. They're spending renminbi in the UK. Like,
they literally are, and their money props up our university system. Otherwise, it would cost us a lot more.
Yeah, they're like fucking sky-high tuition fees subsidises the capped tuition fees of native-born UK students.
True.
In our universities.
We're relying on people from abroad to care for our loved ones. They should be able to bring their loved ones with them.
Okay, thank you. I just want to turn to Angela Rayner, who's quite quiet here. You did raise your hand alongside Nigel Farage on that question. Angela Rayner.
Yeah, because the Tories, they talk about a cap, but we've had net migration going up because our economy has relied on overseas workers well, it's...
Okay, Angela Bott's now going to say what we need is a workforce strategy, industrial strategy, something.
Fine. It's fine to want to do engaging in skills training. Like, unironically, this is the No Justice stream in completely venerating the idea of a skills wallet. So it has my full backing for the skills wallets plan. But like, that shouldn't be everything. Again, it's gonna.
Exactly. My point isn't that inherently it's bad. Look, much of what was in the Labour manifesto isn't in of itself, in a vacuum, bad. But
it's not enough.
It's not enough, and I don't trust that even the good things they are actually going to do.
Yeah.
You know. Also, did you see their plans for House of Lords reform? They're going to. I mean, the one good thing is their plan anyway is to get rid of hereditary lords completely, which is good. But also, then they're going to kick them out when they turn 80.
Yeah, based. Fucking sick of the gerontocracy in this country.
But hang on, but it's not the age that's the problem. There are loads of really great lords who are over 80. That isn't really the issue, is it? I think that's a really weird way of going about it, especially considering unless you're going to start getting a lot younger lords, if you get rid of all of the 80+ lords, there are going to be no fucking lords left. I've got no problem with experienced, good people in this area. I think this is. I genuinely, I'm not even being paid to say this now. I genuinely think you're wrong here. I think this is a weird piece of ageism, not necessarily from you, but from the Labour Party on this
at
point.
the end of the day, they say it's going to be in the view for a long-term replacement of it with an elected chamber. I don't believe them, but if this is the first steps they have to take to move towards abolishing it, replacing it with an elected chamber, then you know what? Fair enough. I will take whichever crumbs they throw at me.
Okay. Well, I'd be happy with them just getting rid of the. Well, actually, no, I'm not happy with. I think it's good they're getting rid of the hereditary lords if it happens, but that in of itself, everything about them is just mealy-mouthed, like bit part. Nothing really. It doesn't address the fundamental problem, which is that the House of Lords isn't democratic.
True.
And therefore has to keep fucking backing down, even when it's in the right, because the democratic chamber has to take legitimacy. Oh, yeah, okay, brilliant.
Flatlining, but what we've said is that we need an industrial and skills strategy because we've got unemployment going up in the latest figures. So we've got to make sure
years to come up with some ideas on this, and we have. We've got
Fair play, fair play. You can't honestly. Don't bring up 14 years, Penny. Like, you're not dealing with an idiot. She was obviously going to slap you down there. What did you think was going to happen? What?
workforce plan for the NHS. We've got a workforce plan for social care.
You don't have a workforce plan for social
It will
care.
inform.
I don't think just saying fuck them counts as a plan, really.
But also on top of that, it's just like, okay, but you've had 14 years in government of failure. This is your plan to mop up your stratospherically bad failure on this issue. Like, Labour may not have a proper plan that they've devised over that 14 years, but, remember, all of the plans they used to have to get torn up to make it sensible adults in the room politics now, so...
Yes, you did pull the Uno Reverso on her. Yes.
You refused to publish
on
one.
the floor of the House of Commons from your democratically elected representatives will be able to cap the visas.
It is
We need
absolute
to
rubbish. You've had
talk about the
14
issues that the
years
questioner
and
put.
net migration
you
has
have
gone
no
up.
idea. You have no workforce strategy. You have no industrial strategy. You have
Okay,
no
are you
number.
talking to
What's-
me or Rishi?
The Tories don't have an the Tories are literally the party of not doing an industrial strategy. The Tories believe in free markets. An industrial strategy, whilst not exactly being the most interventionist policy, is still an interventionist policy. Like Labour are the ones who have a very, very minor industrial strategy. You've been playing laissez-faire capitalist politics for the entirety of your existence as a political force in the UK, Penny. What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah. Okay, people in chat, they've taken the reform thing. Okay. I agree that the bishops shouldn't be there, but they're actually some of the most diligent, thoughtful, and worthwhile people that exist.
Yeah, post-Rwanda.
Like, they genuinely are a worthwhile group of people, even though they have no fucking right to be there.
Literally, I mean, what would you rather have in the House of Lords? A vicar who's guided by the principles of the Bible, or Alan fucking Sugar? I know which one I'd choose.
Well, that's anti-Semitism. Would you rather have a Christian or a Jew?
Talking to me or Rishi, because that is exactly your opinion.
It's an election campaign.
All right,
What's your plan?
thank you.
You
thank
haven't
you.
got
Can
one.
I'm going to
been in
thank
power.
you, Angela Rayner. Stephen Flynn.
Follow that. The reality is that Angela was being quiet because the leader of her party, Keir Starmer, just a couple of years ago, said that we should be talking about the positive benefits of migration. And I actually believe that Angela Rayner probably agrees more with me on this topic rather than she does Nigel Farage or Penny
She's
Mordaunt.
trying
But
not
the
to
Labour
nod.
Party has changed, and it's changed in the wrong.
She's trying so hard not to nod because she
skip
wants
back-
to agree.
Skip back
Sorry, go
5
on.
seconds. I want to get the entirety of this bit clipped because it's going to be beautiful.
Just a couple of years ago, said that we should be talking about the positive benefits of migration. And I actually believe that Angela Rayner probably agrees more with me on this topic rather than she does Nigel Farage or Penny Mordaunt. But the Labour Party has changed, and it's changed in the wrong direction. And when Nigel Farage tells you all that
she definitely wants to agree with him there, because I think she's not anywhere near as right-wing as she lets on, but she's a politician, so she goes with the flow. And I think she wanted to nod along and be like, yes, free me from these shackles. But she wants a job in the cabinet in a couple of weeks, so...
migrants are making you poor and they're the problem. Don't believe him. Do you want to know the biggest problem facing the UK economy right now? His pet project of Brexit. £40 billion worth of tax receipts. And do you want to know what makes it worse?
And that's a winner. That's a winner in Scotland, because people fucking hate it. They didn't like it before, and they certainly don't like it now. So from his perspective, he doesn't have to chase weird boomers in Surrey. You know, that's just a win-win strategy from him. Yeah, he knows his game.
Labour Party back Brexit as outlined by their manifesto today. Shameful.
No,
Especially as well, given we're going to be talking about Keir Starmer's broken promises like Stephen Flynn just mentioned 5 seconds ago, especially since leadership election Keir Starmer, one of the many faces of Keir Starmer, said we need to talk about the benefits of freedom of movement and that we should be looking at trying to mitigate the problems of Brexit. But now he's all make Brexit work, reduce immigration. Weird that. Will the real Keir Starmer please stand up?
Is this second referendum Starmer? That guy?
Yeah, the guy who tried to tank the election by calling for a second referendum.
Yeah. But then stood on a manifesto that he now claims was uncosted in a bag of bollocks. That guy.
What does he believe? Who knows? Don't like these principles? I have others.
Exactly. Very much a weather vane.
All of those points, particularly the
absolutely.
point on, are you on his side, really, as Stephen Flynn's implying or asking directly? What did you
Look, first of all,
respond?
we respect the result of the referendum. I know that the SNP never do, but we do, and that's what we've said on that point.
Keir Starmer didn't. Keir Starmer absolutely wanted to overturn it. What are you talking about?
I think Angela Rayner supported the second referendum policy in the 2019 manifesto as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, she stood on the platform, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
On the second point, I
pause one sec,
absolutely
Kev.
believe that people...
Let me go from Angela Rayner on Twitter. Let me find the receipts. Referendum.
There's always a tweet. Always. Just like the FBPE people, there's always I'm not voting for Labour with the anti-Semite. So if you don't vote for Keir Starmer, that means you're basically sucking Rishi Sunak off. You're a disgrace. They're all slimy, grubby, nasty little fuckers.
Absolutely. I'm going to try and find a tweet from hers that says she backs the second referendum.
Fair enough.
Well, she did tweet about the Brexit plan to put the deal to people, or if they want Remain. Yeah, literally, she has already tweeted out specifically backing the Brexit plan to have a second referendum in November 2019.
Snake. Absolute snake. Don't trust a word that any of them say.
Nope.
God almighty. And she's one of the nicer ones. And she's full of shit.
People come to this country and work hard and contribute, but we cannot have an economy that relies on just overseas workers. We have to also have an industrial and skills strategy when unemployment...
Yeah, okay, but you can't, like, in the short term, we still need more people coming in. We do actually need that to happen.
As I said before, like, unemployment is still super low. Like, it's gone up slightly, I think, a couple of percentage, like 1 percentage point over the last 12 months or so, but it's still an incredibly low in historic standards, by historic numbers. Like, you can't, there's no magic doctor tree, there's no magic nurse tree, there's no magic teacher tree. You have to train people up as well as bring in people from overseas. And of course, we have a shrinking working age population too.
Yep.
Employment is going up in the UK, that we can train and fill our skills gaps as well.
You haven't had to do anything
Penny,
else.
you've been in power 14 years. 14
We've got
years.
one.
You haven't got
you
one.
Don't.
You haven't. You promised employment bill. We never got one. You promised to bring down net migration.
Just been here before.
Again, Dylan Burns needs to step in and go, I'll mute you.
Yeah.
I'll mute you. You're going to keep talking over each other. No one can hear you. I'll mute you. Thank you for the gifted subby sub, Belvoir P.
Thank you very much, Penny Mordaunt, Angela Rayner. I think we
will
might
give
just
you the
been
worst of all possible worlds for the
Carla,
EU, because they will take you back
very
in
much
without any of the benefits
Penny.
of membership.
Penny
Sorry.
Mordaunt.
You keep talking about...
They'll take you back in without any of the benefits of membership. What the fuck are you talking about?
Well, I mean, I thought you thought that there were no benefits to being in the EU, Penny. I thought we were going to make loads of Brexit benefits because the EU was terrible and it was taking away our sovereignty. Wasn't that the whole shtick? Or is the EU full of benefits that we all got rid of because of the referendum that your party called?
No, but well, look, you know how great...
If there were so many benefits... If there were so many benefits, why didn't you have a Brexit deal that you stood on an election at the last in 2019, which had all of these benefits included in the deal as part of the withdrawal? Or did you just say, fuck sod the benefits, right? We're just going to do what's worse for the country because it sounds good? It seems to me like it's the latter.
Indeed. Thank you, Belvoir, also for gifting us up to Lesbian Hot Sauce, who everyone should go and follow.
You should do that, absolutely.
Lesbian and Hot Sauce. And I learned today from Nia Grimsby.
Hey.
So, you know. So they definitely need cheering up.
Your workforce strategy, what are you doing to deal with the emigration, the people leaving from our health and social care because they're not being properly paid for the work they do?
I'm fighting Labour's plans to tax our healthcare professionals on their pensions. That's what I'm fighting.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. It's so cynical and just repetitive and rubbish. Look, that is a mood. That face is just, why do I bother? Why did I bother trying to engage in political dialogue with this robot NPC?
Senior nurses, doctors are going to leave the NHS, and they're also going to be piling on additional pressures into our
Penny, we haven't
come down
won
to
the
the picket
general
line with me
election
next
yet.
time, and we'll try and find someone who says that's why they're leaving.
I won't be on the
Nigel Farage.
Get him! Got him!
She's saucy tonight. I like her.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's fine to have one party in Parliament standing up for workers, standing up for the trade union movement. You'd think it would be the one that was funded by the trade unions, but apparently they want more funding from Gary Lubner and Trevor Chin, actually.
Well, you'd think that, given that their name is the Labour Party, but they really should be sued under the Trades Descriptions Act, because that is not correct.
Question is, what are they going to do about it? Neither of them will do anything. These people have lied to us repeatedly, and Labour.
I mean, Flynn's not wrong. Flynn's not wrong, but sort of neither is Nigel. Like, he doesn't have a leg to stand on, Nigel Farage, but he is correct. Both of them have repeatedly lied to you.
I mean, true. Like, if you want a party that stands on its principles, Green Party, SNP, we're all here for you.
Yeah.
And Labour, and made a career of doing that. Repeatedly. I know. I've actually always told the truth.
Oh, Nige.
Mate, Nige, what's going on?
Oh, you're a clown, my dude. Stick to Big Chungus and up the Ra. You're better at that.
Absolutely,
It's funny as well. Yeah.
Always said what I've. And Labour, it's not even in your first 6 priorities for government. You haven't got the will to do anything about it. Nothing under these is going to change. And the vast majority, not on this panel, obviously, because they're not representative in that sense, the vast majority of Britons want net migration reduced significantly.
It's a plurality, I think, rather than a majority, but...
Yeah. Also, when you say they're not representative, I mean, they will hoover up the vast majority of votes, which isn't necessarily entirely representative, but does suggest it's not quite the one priority that you claim it is.
I mean, to be fair to Nigel, he wants to stand on his principles, and it's true, if people aren't representative, he does want to give us a representative voting system.
That's true, but that's mainly because he knows that's the way in which extremist politics can get in. I'm not arguing that that's the reason you don't do it. I'm just saying he knows that he can't really get a majority.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Well, actually, in our first steps, we talk about a border force command so that we can deal with the crossings and people that are putting their lives at risk, because the Rwanda scheme will never work. It's always been a gimmick. We would put that money into tackling the gangs. And Keir Starmer said today he's worked on counter-terrorism with overseas before. We can do it again. These gangs that are putting people's lives at risk should not be carrying on in the way they are.
And Penny, you have no plan to
you've
do
had
it.
14
well, tell
years
everyone what
in
you're
power.
going to do with illegal migrants when they come here. What are you going to do with illegal migrants when they come here, Angela?
We have said that we will fill our skills gap with an industrial strategy.
Maybe not leave them in hotels so that their kids get stolen.
Yeah, because that's a thing that happened. A thing that
no one talks about. No one talks about. No one cares. If one kid from Eton goes missing, you better be believing that motherfucker's face is going to be plastered everywhere. A doctor went missing in Greece, and we had a week on news about it. No offense to the guy, he's dead now, but whatever. 2,000 was it? Migrant
200.
children.
200.
Was it 2? Oh, okay, 200 migrant children just disappeared. Were just stolen by who knows, and to God knows what fate.
I mean, you know, as we've seen very much over the last 8 months, when white people go missing, it's everybody's problem. When brown people go missing, it's a statistic. Just like the difference between all of those lives taken away on October the 7th and the factors of 10 more brutally murdered by the Israeli military regime in Palestine.
Indubitably.
To match people to the skills, because what the Tories...
Thank you.
You're not letting me finish.
Your leader was asked a specific question at the Manifesto launch today.
Thank you.
And your leader couldn't answer it.
Penny Mordaunt,
what are you going to
I must
do
bring in...
with illegal migrants that come
Thank
here?
you, Penny Mordaunt.
Jesus Christ, he's like with Rishi Sunak. Stop talking over the host. It's a bad look.
I mean, yeah, I mean, even Penny Mordaunt, who's usually kind of a calm performer, is looking really flustered. I don't think they're used to being A, under this much scrutiny, and A, looking like this much like they're going to get fucking destroyed.
Yeah, she is usually a lot more composed than this. I thought she was doing well at first, but she's just, she seems to be sort of fraying at the edges now. Which is, I mean, not surprising given how bad things are for the Tories. But like I say, if she's setting herself up for a leadership bid, she is marring it slightly now.
Yeah.
Angela.
Not that she's going to face much competition because there's going to be like a dozen other Tory MPs. So, you know, she can take over the residue of what used to be the Conservative Party.
I mean, you know how in the 1997 election, as the results were coming in, I think was it William Hague who said, well, once the 16th result had happened or whatever, the second seat had happened, he was like, well, I'm glad that we've got a second Conservative seat because we'll actually be able to have a leadership election. And I'm just like, this is something that is up in the air at the moment. They may not be able to have a leadership election come the 5th of July.
True. Well, it's like with the Lib Dems. They went from being a party that was big enough to become the kingmaker in 2010 to then being wiped out so bad they had to have like their shadow ministers, as it were, doubling up and trebling up on portfolios because they just didn't have enough MPs anymore to cover the ministries. It was mad.
Border force. Angela Rayner mentioned the border force. We're back to Brexit here. Of course, it's more difficult to control our borders and immigration because of Brexit and the fact that our relationship isn't what it was with the European Union. And on Brexit, £4 billion has been spent on controlling our borders when we used to have borders that were free. And the question I ask myself time and time again in this election is, what has happened to Labour? After Brexit, I didn't want to leave the European Union, but once that vote happened, we had to think of ways, of trying to protect our interest. I worked with Labour colleagues of yours on a document called Securing Wales's Future, which proposed getting back or staying in the customs union and the single market, so at least we could look after our trade interests. What?
And then the Lib Dems and everyone else went, nah, fuck it, no, anything Brexity at all. I don't care that people voted for it. I'm going to scupper that and end up with the worst of both worlds.
Thank you, Change UK. Brilliant work with giving us the hardest Brexit possible. Thank you very much.
Look. They said that they wanted to build a new centre ground, and what they did was fucking disappear.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly.
They're gone.
It was crazy how really weird.
It was like the rising star of the Labour Party.
He called himself the British Barack Obama.
Well, to be fair, he's also not in power anymore. So
true. Well,
there are similarities.
What is interesting though is obviously Runa Pueth there talking about this idea that we used to have this agreement with Labour about mitigating the impacts of Brexit. This was when apparently the big Brexit bad man, Jeremy Corbyn, was leader of the party. The man who gave the EU 7 out of 10 on the last leg, which was his crowning moment of being Mr. Brexit man, who the Liberals could never support ever because he was evil and right-wing.
Well, he did invade the Sudetenland, so,
yeah, and then they were just like, and that was when they were doing mitigation on Brexit. Now Sir Starmer, Mr. Hard Brexit, is in charge. He's the adult in the room who's going to bring us back into the EU. He just can't tell us this yet. But the hashtag FBPE crowd truly believe he's going to U-turn on this shit when he gets into Parliament, despite the fact that he's explicitly ruled it out. Also, thank you, SK the Crusader, for the raid. Everyone go drop SK the Crusader a follow and a subscription on YouTube for the epically long Keir Starmer video that's out for members and out for public viewing soon. That looks epic. Looking forward to it.
Indeed. I fully endorse that endorsement. Anyway, I'm old enough, just about, to remember the time before the 97 election, the lead up to that. And can I just tell any leftists or even moderatists who are lean left, who are still thinking that, well, he's just lying, and when he gets in, he's going to be super based and awesome. That's the worst cope ever, and it's exactly the same cope that people of that generation did with Tony Blair.
Yeah.
When someone tells you who they are and shows you who they are, believe them.
Indeed. It was some real absolute copy moments. And I'm just like, this is your wallet inspection moment. I hope you like buying bridges and magic beans.
Yes.
It's not an issue, though. It's not an issue.
It's not an issue, no. It's going to be Marxist capitalism, baby. Let's go.
What happened to you? Why won't you even talk about that in the Labour Party now? It's because you're afraid of the Conservatives are afraid of Nigel Farage, and we end up in the trouble that we're in.
Angela Rayner, respond directly to that point. First of all, nobody thinks people should be crossing on small boats and putting their lives at peril. That's why we don't think these gangs should be allowed to do that. That's why we're putting the money into stopping that from happening. And in terms of you know, what we're going to do to support, you know, sorry, I forgot what your other part of the question was, but...
Okay.
Oh, no, no, okay. I mean, it's not quite a Rick Perry oops moment, but you can't have a brain fart like that on live TV.
All right, if you're so... Well, we're just going to take a pause and a break.
Oh.
I'm just gathering my thoughts as well as gathering my facts.
Oh,
So we're just going
no.
to draw a little bit of a line, but actually stay broadly on the subject, as you'll see, because you're quite keen to talk about Brexit. Before we go to our next break, I'd like to ask you all a pretty quick-fire question from Ken in Caerphilly. He told us that he had a simple question, yes or no. If elected, would you ever rejoin the EU or the single market? Angela Rayner.
No, and your other question before was Brexit, and as a result of the referendum, that's what we respect.
I mean, I don't know if you can bring that tweet back up of her saying that, because she did say that she wanted that before. So
yeah.
Was that also Liz Truss's mini budget by any chance? Because you seem to be throwing that out as the reason that you've changed every single policy you've ever had.
War in Ukraine.
Exactly.
Which ironically is probably a reason to be back in the European Union if you're of that ilk of politics. Yeah, Labour Brexit plan, put a deal back to the people to decide if they want that deal or if they want to remain. That's the Labour Brexit plan that she endorsed on Twitter on November the 3rd, 2019.
I used to take 2 sugars in my tea, but Liz Truss's mini budget, you know? What can you say?
Never rejoin the EU or the single market?
No.
Thank you.
Shameful.
Not on the table at this election, unfortunately, but at some point in the future, I very much hope so.
Thank you very much. Penny Mordaunt.
No, and if you have a Labour government, they will take you back in, they will tie you on defence, on migration, on regulation, without any of the benefits of membership.
Carla Denyer.
Yes, when the time is right.
Thank you. Nigel Farage.
No, we're free. Unfortunately, we're governed incompetently, but at least there are mistakes and not somebody else's.
Stephen Flynn.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Andrea.
I have no doubt that Wales is best served by being in the European Union, but for now, let's get back in the customs union and the single market to help our economy.
Thank you all very much for being so sharp and quick and clear with your answers on that. We will leave that issue there for now. Much more after the break, when we'll be discussing the cost of living and also giving each...
Although, to be fair, it's worth pointing out that you can't just rejoin the single market. Big Madge has done some really good videos on how just rejoining the single market is like a pipe dream nonsense from people who don't understand the engagement with the European Union. Whereas, to be fair, and also, I just think that the customs union is the important bit. I'm not necessarily fussed about the single market, but the customs union is what protects the Good Friday Agreement, and that's what's important to me.
Yeah, that's fair. It is definitely one of the priorities. Not having things exploding is a good start.
TV election debate where 7 of the country's political leaders are making the
also,
case
everyone go and follow Big Madge, who's also cool.
True.
Why they should get your vote.
When I followed him on Discord, he had a little fangirl moment, and I felt very, very honoured. It was lovely.
Our next question. It's now time to turn to Janice from Penarth in South Wales.
Oh, hello.
Good evening. Britain is a rich country. I've worked in housing for 32 years. Why am I working every day with individuals and families who never thought they'd struggle, but now rely on food banks and are at serious risk of homelessness?
Thank you very much indeed, Janice. Nigel Farage.
Because people are getting poorer. It's quite simple.
Because of immigration. Yeah, okay.
Simple. You know, I mentioned a few moments ago that GDP, wealth per capita, has fallen for the last 6 consecutive quarters. And it's very much... And it's been the same. It sort of began with Labour, but it's continued. It's very much a country in which the big corporates and the big banks and a certain group of people
that you worked for
richer exponentially.
Yeah, Nigel, if you hate big banks so much, why did you have this massive campaign to make sure that you could bank with like the biggest of the banks, like the massive rich people swanky bank Coots, that became your raison d'etre for like 6 months, where you were mad that Coots cancelled your account? If you hate big banks so much, why do you want to bank with them?
It's a very good question. It's almost like he's full of poop.
And everybody else has fallen behind. And things that perhaps, you know, we could have expected when we were younger.
Didn't you just chastise Carla Denyer earlier on in the debate for saying that we should tax these people? And now
Yeah.
you're saying that, well, actually, the problem with our society is these people have all of the money. And I'm like, well, we agree. Let's take away the money. It's taxes. Let's take it back. Take back the money that they've stolen from us through
No, we need to
exploited
give them.
rents.
No, we need to give them all of the money and allow them to keep that, but hope that they don't act in the way that they are currently acting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's literally his weird duality plan.
Our kids and grandkids now find a house unaffordable. Rents have risen by 20%, in some parts 30%, just in the last 3 years. And I'm sorry, but we are back to the population explosion and the massive impact it's having on the lives of people. And we've got to try to get the population to steady, and we have to build more houses, and we have to take the poorer people out of tax. Increase the tax
Thank you very much.
to £20,000, get people back to work.
Thank you very much. You've had your time.
Also,
Nigel
it's
Farage,
really
thank
worth
you for that.
pointing out as well,
Brilliant.
if you raise the tax-free threshold, that's not a tax cut for the poor. That's a tax cut for everybody.
Yeah.
In fact, because poor people are net beneficiaries of a tax system, a cut of tax for everybody is worse for them because they get less service provision because you have to make loads of cuts from the money from the taxes of the net contributors. So this is a real false economy that right-wingers love to sell to poor people who will slightly decrease the very small amount of tax that you pay. Because broadly what that will mean is that we have a less redistributive economy, which is better for poor people.
Yes.
Thanks for the question. Yes, a very rich country, but one of the most unequal in the world. And it's because of that we were so ill prepared for the cost of living crisis. Some, of course, was exacerbated by war and global conditions, but of course we can never forget Tresonomics and the crashing of the economy at the hands of the Conservatives. So what we had was a cost of living crisis, yes, a cost of inequality crisis, a cost of lack of investing crisis, a cost of missed opportunities. Somehow we have got to get government to recognise the importance of dealing with inequalities before they can make opportunities open to all. And that is what is so missing from what Labour is offering.
Yeah.
True.
Well, I think we've said this before, and it bears repeating. We need to get back to the idea that government, we need to get away from the Reaganite idea of government is the enemy. Not that government is necessarily always your friend, and you should hold it to account. It's still your money, but that it's something that can be used in ways that can help people.
Well, exactly.
Rather than it just being like a thing that needs to be destroyed or whatever.
And Rachel Reeves explicitly said the opposite. She said that I don't believe that the government creates wealth. And I'm like, well, that's just untrue.
Yeah, because they're Thatcherite garbage. Yeah.
Yeah.
They are the problem. Yeah.
As they are to the Conservatives.
Thank you very much, Stephen Flynn.
There's an easy answer to your question, which is the Conservative.
To rework the Reaganite slogan, the 9 most dangerous words in the English language are, I'm a neoliberal and I'm here to help.
True.
Is the problem. But to look more deeply into the policy aspect of this, we've had 14 years of austerity. Then we've had the damage of Brexit and what that's done to the economy, the shrinking of the economy, the £40 billion worth of tax receipts, which have disappeared out of the economy. Then, of course, we had Liz Truss and her decision to crash the economy. And, of course, on top of that, we've had the mismanagement of primarily Scotland's energy resources, which has led to everyone in this room and everyone across these aisles, energy bills going through the roof. The thing that concerns me the most is what comes next. And the status quo consensus in Westminster is for £18 billion of public sector cuts, isn't it?
This guy's lying.
Thank you very much indeed.
He's not wrong. There's still a conspiracy of silence.
Is a complete catastrophe.
There is a conspiracy of silence, but I'm not sure about the mathematics because I don't really know enough about it. But, he's got his line and he's going to do the thing. And that's where the Scottish National Party do have it easier, is that they really only are pitching to one constituent. Not literally in the sense of one person. They're just going for mainly progressive votes only in Scotland. They don't have to also pitch to fucking boomers in.
Exactly. Also, by the way, If you're enjoying the content, you can subscribe on Twitch for $4.99 or for free with Twitch Prime by linking your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account for a free sub every month. So if you're watching on YouTube and for some reason you buy Amazon Prime, don't know why you would, you can drop over to Twitch and then either myself or Kevin stream, link Amazon Prime to your Twitch account and throw us some of Jeff Bezos' money at no cost to yourself for some animated and static emotes in Twitch chat and some ad-free viewing over there. You can also drop bits. Text-to-speech is 100 bits on my end, 200 on Kev's end for your message to get read out. If you're watching on YouTube, you can super chat. I'll read out all super chats on the stream. And you can also become a member on YouTube, 4.99p, which is cheaper than a can of Red Stripe, which gets access to my static emotes in YouTube chat and YouTube comments. It gets you access to my archive live streams. And you will also, if you want to, you can gift memberships to your fellow viewers. It's the best way to support the stream.
Red Stripe on YouTube.
If you gift memberships, it spreads the love around and boosts the stream in the algorithm. So if you've not got a message on YouTube, but you do want to donate, it's best to gift that many memberships rather than just super chatting, because it's better for the algorithm.
True. Also, I'm a basic hoe, so if you pay me money, I will say things I don't agree with.
True. Yeah, Kev is a dancing monkey, for what it's worth.
I am literally that, yes.
And it's affecting people in every single community across our country. There was a point at which we used to say people were choosing between heating and eating, but there are people now who can't afford either, and it's devastating.
Yep.
So we Liberal Democrats were the first party to call for a windfall tax on the big oil and gas companies, because we saw the raw injustice of those companies raking in billions of pounds in profits whilst people couldn't afford to heat their homes. And that's why we're still saying we would close the loopholes in that windfall tax to raise more money so we can increase people's the warm home discount and start insulating people's homes. We would spread free school meals to every single child living in poverty in this country so they can afford to have at least one meal a day to help them sleep and study. And we must invest.
Really, dream small. We're going to make sure they have one meal a day.
I mean,
it's better than no meals. It's better than no meals, but is that the best we can do? Not that they will be given adequate sustenance. No, what we want is we want to raise a generation of people who are 5 feet tall because they got enough to survive, but not enough to actually grow. That's literally true, by the way. Younger generations are growing up to be slightly shorter.
Oh, that's on top of the
poor nutrition.
That's on top of the 330,000 dead people that austerity caused. Thanks, Lib Dems. Appreciate you. Collaborators in Democide. Big fan. And on top, I mean, also we got a problem with the welfare state. We've got problems with the cost of living because of the failure to manage our resources and having control of the economy. And on top of this, wages are too low. Wages have been stagnant. If we'd have had the same wage growth that we'd had up to 2010, we'd have £11,000 per working adult more in real wages in this country. And that's a fault of supply-side labour market reform. So what we need, of course, is that we need to deal with fucking neoliberalism. We need to have better trade union bargaining rights, better trade unions across the country having sectoral bargaining, reversing the Thatcherite anti-trade union laws so working people have enough money to be able to pay the bills without worrying on handouts from the state. Because welfare payments, universal credit, 40% of recipients are in work, and they would not have to be if their wages were good and their rent was controlled. If you want rent controls, if you want better wages and better trade union rights, only one party is working for that for you. That's the Green Party.
Yeah. Also, if people are in work and receiving benefits, what you're actually doing is using taxpayer money to fund capitalist underpayment of workers.
Literally subsidising businesses, poverty wages, using the state.
Yep.
Same with housing benefit. A bunch of housing benefit people are just people who don't earn enough money from their jobs because housing is too expensive because we sold off all the council housing. Again, if you want a party that's going to build council housing, it's one party you can vote for. It's the Green Party.
Or vote for Count Binface, who has promised to build one house.
True.
Which, you know what, I don't make promises you can't keep. I reckon you can keep that. Bang on, lad. Anyway, Penny Warden has been brilliant so far in this debate. Is really selling me. I'm putting my cross in the Conservative box. Said Kevin fucking Logan. Again, you paid me money. I said the bad thing. Yeah.
Also, yeah. Phil says super chat £2 and says Kev messed up my demands and wants a refund. Unfortunately, he can't refund YouTube super chats.
Yeah. Also, eat my dick. That money's going nowhere, mate. You know where that money's going? To my heroin dealer. Let's go.
£1 billion in our farmers to reduce the price of healthy, locally grown food.
Okay, thank you very much. Angela Rayner.
Well, it's a very important question. Stephen gave a resume of what the problems were, but without any of the solutions. We need to grow our economy. We haven't had growth in our economy. The Tories have taxed us the highest burden in 70 years. We also need to build the houses that people need. The Tories haven't built those houses. That's why we've said we'd build 1.5 million homes, including social housing that we desperately need. We need a new deal for working people, which I'm incredibly proud of, to make sure that people have secure, good paid jobs. And we need Great British Energy to bring down energy bills so we're not reliant on people like Putin for our energy needs, which has meant people's bills have gone.
You know, what we need to do is rely on our good friends in Saudi Arabia.
Well, it's just like we can rely on. We can just rely that the private sector is going to build a bunch of these things because we're just gonna magic this out of the ether. Fingers crossed, guys. Hope they do it.
No, but
only for council housing. Fiscal rules, though.
If you considered pressing a certain button,
pressing the houses button.
The houses button, everything just works out fine then.
Absolutely. It's just the magic house tree.
Sky high.
Thank you very much. Penny Mordaunt.
Thank you. Well, thank you for what you do. And you'll know from the people that you work with that when you're facing financial hardship, how frightening that is and how
much you don't want to pay tax, and they're going to tax you. Fucking hell.
How exhausting.
Also, thank you, Thomas, for the 2,000 Chilean pesos. The waif look has come back in style. Absolutely.
True. Also, hello well, actually, you might not be in Chile. You might just be paying in Chilean pesos. I have no idea. But good for you.
You have to be so organised.
I still have in my PayPal, because if they're given different denominations, you have like that, it just stays there. So I don't even know what it is, whatever currency it is. But I still have Omani something or other. I don't even know what thing it is.
Dinar, is it?
It's something like that. Anyway, it's just a little Oman flag, right? With 000 in it because they gave me like $1 3 years ago or something. Yeah, and so it's just there in my wallet, empty now. Brilliant.
I think this is the issue
of the
election.
A real, there we are.
It is not true to say that we've put the highest burden on the poorest. The tax burden on those on low and middle incomes is the lowest that it has been since 1975. We've got 4 million people into work. We have 1 million fewer working households. But what we need to do now is cut tax. We have to enable people to keep more of the money. That is what we will do. Labour will do the opposite. They will put up taxes, they will put up bills, and the people you work with will suffer.
Penny, you keep
it's uninterrupted. Angela Rayner. Angela Rayner, we are doing uninterrupted responses, and it is Carla Denya's time to respond. Carla Denya.
Thank you, Janice. You're right. The rich are getting richer, but the poor are getting poorer. We think it's time to bring fairness back into our economy by asking the billionaires and the multimillionaires to pay a bit more and introducing a £15 minimum wage, an immediate £40.
Which numbers cock, No Justice MTG, thinks is too much for you plebeians.
I did say that. Yeah, it would lead if it goes above a Kate's index of 80%, it has disemployment effects. Unfortunately, I hate to be a neolib cuck.
True,
but broadly, the idea that working people don't have enough money.
Right wing.
That's true.
And I loved it.
And of course, if she mentions like working age benefits and people in universal credit in work, like that would be the important bit. Right? People can't afford to live, even if they're in work.
Yeah, maybe you should change your channel name to No Justice WEF.
Weekly uplift to universal credit, and lifting the cruel two-child benefit cap, which both the Conservatives and the Labour Party support, even though it unnecessarily holds 250,000 children down into poverty. It's not even that expensive to lift, but both the Conservatives and Labour have ruled it out.
Thank you very much indeed, Carla Denya. And just a reminder of Janice's questions. She works in housing. It's very pertinent to her. She's seeing it day in, day out. She's asking why so many people are now relying on food banks and are at risk of losing their homes. And just to put some statistics here before we get this debate going, last year the Trussell Trust handed out 3.1 million food parcels, the highest number ever.
Mind you, just as the Trussell Trust got mentioned, and it's my opening meme for today. Did you see that someone on Just Giving set up the Rishi Sunak Sky TV fund,
Love it.
which is it's basically a cheeky way of raising money for the Trussell Trust, but is also
It's an
top
excellent moment.
bands. Top
There's
bands.
excellent bands going on there. I just wish Carla, when she talks about this, she did talk about like wages are too low, right? £15 minimum wage, but specifically make it clear wages are too low. People who are in work are having to use universal credit. This is wrong.
Yeah.
Workers need to get paid more. The difference between the people at the top and the people at the bottom and how much they get paid is too wide. And then you could also go into having better trade union rights as well.
So Mr. Damn Girl in chat literally said just the joke, well, you shouldn't have had a third child if you didn't want to live in poverty, blah, blah, blah. Literally, when they introduced this policy, who was the minister? Was it, it's the Chancellor,
George
the guy
Osborne.
now Chancellor, sorry. For fuck's
Jeremy
sake, what is
Hunt.
Jeremy Hunt. Jeremy Hunt, who was the, I think, children's minister, or whatever the hell it was at the time, who literally described having children as a, quote, lifestyle choice.
And now we've got a massively declining birth rate. I wonder whose fault that was.
Interesting, yes. A lifestyle choice. Here's your £8, 10 ounce, whatever, bundle of lifestyle choice. What a delightfully cynical way of looking at the world, you absolute demons.
Yep.
And the Independent Institute for Fiscal Studies has said this Parliament has been the worst on record for growth in average incomes. Stephen Flynn put some very clear points directly to you, Penny Mordaunt. Perhaps you'd like to respond to them, first of all.
Well, look, we have been through some very, very tough times, and the economy is now turning. Wages have been growing for the last 10 months. This is not the time to suddenly rack up taxes on people. Labour are going to do this. Their leader has...
Jesus fucking Christ, change the record. It's just Farage going, immigrants, 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 immigrants. And she going, tax, 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 tax. It's fucking insufferable. The level of discourse is just, it's in the sewer.
Said he is going to do this. What you haven't been told is what taxes and on what people. But the average is £2,000 per working household in this country.
It's the same
People
number.
can't afford that. You know they can't afford
I
that.
asked you to respond
and it will
to
choke off to the recovery.
Stephen Flynn, speak directly to Penny.
You know what the public can't afford, Penny, is any longer one single day more of a Conservative government which is completely out of touch with the reality.
Roasted.
Oh, mate, you knew it was going to get a round of applause as well. Like, you could sense it coming. Oh, Penny, you know you're fighting a losing battle.
Also,
on just a basic human level, I do feel sorry for her because she's trying. She's really giving it some, but she's just, you're having to sell a bag of shit and people don't want it.
I mean, YouGov poll from the 12th to the 13th, so today and yesterday, has Labour only on 37, which is funny, fewer votes than they got in 2017. Reform UK in second on 19, Conservatives third on 18, and Lib Dems on 14%. The Tories might come fourth in this election, chat.
If they lost to the Lib Dems, honestly, that would be the funniest shit. And
Oh my God.
that's dustbin of history levels. You're gone, lads.
Oh yeah, no, Reform UK are going to be like, Reform UK are currently like in talks with the Conservative Party for a post-election merger. Nah, mate, they're going to be the new Conservative. They're going to usurp them. They don't even need a merger at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, damn girl. I love it when the UK pretends to be an intelligent, functional democracy. True. It is also, it's good. We're a nation of actors, you know.
Respond to that directly.
And ultimately, if we are going to move this conversation on to economic growth and what comes next, because that's probably where it's going to go. And, you know, Angela said that she wants...
Well, no, the Reform Party won't be the opposition because it's not proportional representation. They definitely will not win enough seats to be the opposition.
The Lib Dems will be the opposition, yeah.
Yeah, the Liberal Democrats. If the SNP were doing a lot better, they, in theory, might have been able to, but...
This projection has the Lib Dems on more seats than there are in Scotland.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Well,
has 92 seats on 14% of the votes. Crazy.
92 seats? That's... Fuck, man, they've never had anywhere near that number. What's the best they've had is 50 odd, was it? Or something like that in 2010? Something like that. That's incredibly impressive then. Okay. Fair enough.
Economic growth, but she didn't mention the single market.
I suppose, yeah, because if they were only getting 37%, they're not going to exactly hoovering things up, are they? So yeah, the seats are going to go somewhere.
Mentioned freedom of movement and didn't mention the fact that the Labour Party have walked away from £28 billion of investment in net zero technologies, whilst the United States, Europe and everyone else is going down that route to grow the economy. The Westminster consensus is alive and well, and it doesn't serve you well, and ultimately it will be the people who need it.
Oh, that was like in the movies where they try and start one of those claps and get it going, and just no one bought it. That one person was really into that point. That's, I feel bad.
Most the people who can't afford the shops, the people who are ultimately living in poverty, who will feel the consequences of Westminster's priorities.
Okay, and I'm just going to come back to the question. We really want to root us in this one. Janice is working with individuals and families who never thought they'd struggle. We're not just speaking about those who are
True. Yeah, because these are the people who voted Tory the whole time and didn't expect it to blow up in their face.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Before, who've been very frightened by this experience. Carla Daniel.
Yes, I met with the local branch of Citizens Advice in my home city just earlier this week. And they told me the exact same story. They're helping people who've never needed their help before. And the key message that they wanted me and other prospective MPs to go away with is an understanding that for too many households, the problem is extremely simple. Money in is less than money out. The government could choose policies that would fix this. It's choosing not to. So's the Labour Party. The Green Party thinks differently.
Daisy Cooper wants to come in there.
So,
yeah.
I mean, Penny Mordaunt has said that the Conservatives haven't put tax up, but really? I mean, of course they put tax up, and they even froze the personal allowances, meaning that people were dragged into paying a higher rate of tax. That was an invisible tax increase by the Conservatives. But the fact is that the cost of living crisis has been made so much worse by the mini budget, which blew a hole in the public finances and made people's rent and mortgages go up.
Like, some people lost pension provision because some pension funds that had gambled on liability-driven investments were given a shock by the change in bond yield. That's what the mini budget did. Mortgage rates were going up, interest rates were going up because inflation was going up. That's not really anything to do with Liz Truss. Trying to blame, like, most people are mortgage holders, are not people massively affected by the cost of living crisis. Of course, you know, this is across the income spectrum, and I'm not going to say every mortgage holder is rolling in it or whatever, but, you know, renters are people who spend more of their income on housing a lot of the time than mortgage holders do. They were feeling the pinch way before the mini budget, way before Brexit. Whilst Sure Start was being cut, whilst our local authorities were being strangled, all of the services that people need access to just hemorrhaging money away because of austerity cuts to their budgets from the first place. So the idea that somehow the mini budget is the root of the cost of living crisis, no. Inequality is the result of the cost of living crisis. But of course, Liberal Democrats are a bunch of, you know, free market, fiscal hawks, I guess, and deficit hawks, which they will turn into once they become the opposition. They will become into deficit hawks once they become an opposition party. And they don't believe in, like, redistribution.
Yeah. The Liberal Democrats, actually, I thought it'd be 2010. They actually lost 5 seats. It was under Charles Kennedy, 2005. They won 62 seats, is the most they've ever had. So if they were to get 90, that would be 50% more than they've ever had before, which is a significant breakthrough, actually. Undeserved, because Ed Davey's a shithouse. But, you know, there you go. That's how bad the Tories and Labour are.
Absolutely sky high, and people have felt that hit, and they are still trying to recover now.
One of the biggest regrets, I think, of 14 years of mismanagement by the Conservatives is that they missed the opportunity to invest in economic growth in order to help our communities. During those years when interest rates were low, what they chose to do was have this ideological drive to cut public spending that hit everybody, especially those who are poorest. And in this election, you'll hear me talking a lot about ambition. Where is the ambition from either of the Westminster main parties to invest in, you know, allowing us in Wales to make the most of our natural resources through devolving the Crown Estate, allowing us to invest in transport and connectivity through giving us the billions we're owed as a result of HS2 rail in England? That's the ambition that we need. We're not hearing it from the Conservatives, and I regret we're not hearing it from
Nigel.
We need to do something with vision. And if we
are you a joke? Well, I mean, you are a joke. We need to do something. We need to do something with vision. That's the most hollow bullshit ever. You're not even a populist. You're just a wanker.
we increase the level at which people start to pay tax to £20,000, That takes 7 million people out of tax. That's up to a £1,500 benefit for people on lower wages. But it helps get people off the benefits trap. Because the benefits trap is if you start to go back to work and earn money, you lose benefits. Plus, we'd rely less on unskilled foreign
immigration.
That's the kind of vision that we need to help those who are at the lower end of the income scale or on benefits in this country. And you know what? I really believe it would work.
Just a quick question, Nigel Farage, from Suella Braverman actually has talked about the two-child benefit cap, which has been raised, just touched on a couple of times. I know that at some point we'll return to that. Suella Braverman has actually said that that two-child benefit cap should be lifted. She's spoken quite warmly about you in recent times.
I know.
Well, I wasn't asking you to respond to that necessarily, Nigel Farage, but she would welcome a lifting of that cap. Would you?
With a little bit Leslie Phillips, then. I know.
No.
Oh, behave. By the way, Leslie Phillips, genuinely true story, I read his autobiography, lost his virginity to his own sister. That's a thing that happened. I'll move on.
Agree with Suella?
I think we should encourage people to have families. I think we should encourage people to have children.
Okay.
Yeah, so they should all be. They should, all of those children.
And I think we should also encourage people in marriage to have some tax benefits as well. I really do.
So that's a yes.
Yeah.
A lifting of the two-child.
Yeah, we've got to help people.
Sake, Nigel Farage is to the left of the Labour Party on this issue.
Well,
Yeah, he's outflanking them. He's outflanking them. God almighty, this is tragic.
Increase taxes for working people because they have the highest tax burden under the Tories. And coming back to
let her finish.
Coming back to the original point as well, the Tories promised to end Section 21 no-fault evictions. They haven't, and that's sent homelessness soaring, especially for families. And that we also have said we need to make work pay so that people. One of the most scandalous.
Okay, so are you definitely committing to getting rid of that then? So you're going to get rid of no-fault eviction? Okay. I will try and hold you to that.
Things I've seen. I've talked about my childhood when my mum and dad was on the gyro. We didn't have to go to a food bank. The people using food banks now are actually in work, and that is under the Tories' watch.
Point out the embarrassment here for Angela Rayner. We have Nigel Farage wanting to get rid of the two-child limit, and Labour is refusing to. Again, I ask, what's happened to Labour?
Comrade Farage? Is he joining us now on the socialism train? Oh, God. No, he's on the National Socialism train. Yeah.
Well, again, we've said that we'd have action on child poverty, but we will not.
You won't lift the two-child limit.
We will not.
A Conservative policy that you are determined to press ahead with, even though it damages some of our poorest families.
Yeah, there's no way of arguing around that. That is what you're doing, fundamentally. Yeah. And she knows that. And I think in her heart of heart, she'd like to get rid of it because she knows it's a disgusting thing. She was a single mom, young.
Yeah.
She understands how disgusting, how crippling that kind of poverty can be. But she sold her soul for a fucking ministerial jag. So she's going to sell the pig in lipstick.
I mean, she's literally doing a John Prescott. Maybe Angela Two Jags Rayner.
Oh my God, yeah, she literally is John Prescott, but like not John Prescott.
No, far more attractive than John Prescott.
I didn't want to say it. I didn't want to be rude to the man, but he wasn't a looker. Yeah, although to be fair, he got quite a young, attractive woman to fuck him behind his wife's back. And then, interestingly, the only censure he got from the government was misuse. No, sorry, the Tories wanted to have him charged under misuse of property because they fucked on furniture owned by the parliamentary estate.
Incredible.
Genius.
We will not do unfunded spending commitments.
We're talking about the poor.
Angela, why not fund them?
Let me finish. Because unless we can identify where that money's coming from, we have identified.
We can identify where the problem is. Poor children living in poverty.
Can you let me finish? Yeah, that's why housing responds to poverty. So does people's work. We've already put things in place that we said we won't do unfunded spending commitments, but we've put free breakfast clubs in schools because actually as a child that was on free school meals as I was growing up, I had to wait to dinner time to get fed.
We
have prioritised what we felt we needed.
So you're going to keep them in poverty, but you are going to feed them earlier in the day.
Just fund it. Just fund the promise. Just fund it. Like, it's really simple.
Yeah,
Tax the rich.
like. And again, for her prime ministerial jag, she's selling people down the river who were her.
Mm.
Yep.
In a moment. I just want to root, as I said before, in this question, serious risk of homelessness, some of the families and individuals that Janice is working with day in, day out. There's a big question about housing on this, and I'd just like to turn to Carla Denyer, please, for your big plan on housing.
That's right. I've been a housing campaigner my whole life. It's something I'm very passionate about. And my God, do we have a housing crisis in this country. When I moved to Bristol about 15 years ago, I rented a one-bed flat. The cost of a one-bed flat in the 15 years since has doubled. And we can all agree that wages have not doubled in that time. And so, yes,
they haven't moved in that time.
There is no one single bullet. There's no panacea. But there are a group of measures that we can do together. That includes creating more homes. We would create 150,000 council homes a year by the end of the next Parliament. That's through a mixture of new build and giving councils the powers to buy the supply more easily from the market. It also involves giving councils the ability to make sure that private housing developments deliver the kind of housing we need, the right homes at the right price in the right place, and giving councils the power to keep private rents under control in areas where they're overheated.
The SNP have had some tough questions over the affordable housing budget. Stephen Flynn, give us your big plan.
Well, of course, in Scotland, it's the SNP that has seen the building, has oversaw the building of 40% more affordable homes than in England and 70% more affordable homes in Wales. I don't necessarily think that's a tough question to answer. What we're looking at is the future, and ultimately the Conservatives have decided to cut the capital budget for Scotland, which impacts directly upon our ability to build more homes. But for the people who are living within those homes, what we've done in Scotland is introduced the Scottish Child Payment. Doesn't exist anywhere else on these isles. The Labour Party won't replicate it. The Tories certainly won't. 100,000 children are going to be lifted out of poverty thanks to that Scottish Child Payment. It is being called a game changer. Will the Labour Party back it, yes or no?
Yeah, well, and I'd add to Plaid Cymru is
yeah, Plaid Cymru we're going to jump in. Yeah.
Proposing £20 extra for every child as well, because again, like the SNP, we recognise that we have to get to grips with the issue of child poverty.
No, Penny Mordaunt, I'm going to draw a line.
Whereas bizarrely, in parts of England, the government dealing with child poverty is a vote loser.
Yep.
Yeah. And again, just let that sentence sink in.
I know, thank you. I think we might find that some of this arises a little later in our debate this evening. We have got quite a lot of time tonight to talk about all sorts of things. So we're going to move on now to something a little bit different. We've invited each participant in our debate to ask a short question of one other person of their choosing. It's a chance to see what's on the minds of the different party representatives and a chance to get some clarity, hopefully, on something they care about. We've seen the questions in advance. However, the
the only problem is none of them are going to answer the question, but I do like the mixing it up a bit. That's good.
Stage do not know how the others are using their question. First up is Carla Denyer. To whom are you posing your question, Carla?
To Angela Rayner.
Yay!
Angela, which of your party's U-turns are you most proud of? The ditching of the 28 billion climate investment plan, keeping the cruel two-child benefit cap, or one of the others?
Oh, we just saw a brutal murder.
She could have gone so much further. She should have actually gone so much further. She should have just said, on top of that, free movement as we leave the EU, or scrapping tuition fees, or all of the other ones that we know now, like the votes for EU nationals. Like, absolutely, she should have gone all of like, and then literally ended up like, who is the real Keir Starmer? Nobody knows.
Yeah, that was I'm okay with that. That's pretty good. Also, you have to ask the question to the Labour Party as the Green, because that's the person you're trying to take votes from.
Yeah.
Well, the Tories are obviously worse and evil and bad, but Tory voters aren't going to the Green Party for the most part. There's always a few outliers, but like they're trying to siphon votes from Labour.
Not proud of is that we've had 14 years of the Tories and the crashing of the economy. But what I am realistic about is we've got to have a programme for government which is credible, that can grow our economy so we can invest in our green prosperity plan and so that we can eradicate poverty. And I know Labour can do it because we've done it before and we'll do it again.
Not answering the question.
I really feel like that answered my question.
Well, I did. I felt it did answer the question.
What do you think,
you can't just keep plucking numbers out and say, well, this is what we'll do.
Don't drop fucking promises. Don't fucking lie about what you believe. Don't elect somebody who then changes what he believes based upon the audience he's going to. You fucking lied, Angela. Your leader lied, your party fucking lied. Own it. Admit that you're fucking liars.
Yeah, exactly. If you're just saying now that in the past you were just, to quote you back from just 2 seconds ago, plucking numbers out, why should we trust that the numbers you're currently plucking out are any more accurate than the ones you gave us then? It seems like you're just guessing, which is not great when you're about to get in charge of the exchequer.
Manifesto is fully costed one.
Well, yours wasn't fully costed.
Yes, it was.
The Conservatives had unfunded tax breaks, and that's when Liz Truss crashed our economy. We have a fully funded, fully costed manifesto, which
You
will
do
have,
not.
which has a growth strategy.
No, sorry, Penny, you don't answer somebody else's question, Penny Mordaunt. Thank you. I'll just do that. Just gently, just stating the case there, Penny Mordaunt.
Agitated over this point.
Don't get agitated, because you're up next, Penny Mordaunt. It's your turn to ask a question. Who are you asking it of?
I'm okay with what Carla Dinia's saying. Yeah, and Angela Rayner gave the exact answer I thought she would give, which is bollocks. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I just wish she'd gone super fucking hard. I would have absolutely laid it in, just like a litany of broken promises would have been even funnier. But you know what? I'll take the scraps that we get. That was pretty good.
True, but you got to bear in mind, me and you, we do, shit posting on the internet and stuff. Well, these people have got to go, knock on doors in fucking Bristol or whatever. You've got to be a bit more. I don't want to be too respectability about it, but you've got to be a bit more chill.
To also ask my question to Angela.
And you're going to be
Rachel government makes sense.
Your
Yeah.
shadow chancellor.
Yes, chat, my phone has run out of
hasn't
battery.
ruled out-
Obviously, my phone has run out of battery. That's why my camera is off. Please stop asking. It's clearly obvious.
Well, my one doesn't run on battery, so
I know. I'm very lucky. I'm very lucky to be the one who has to deal with camera battery problems. Oh dear.
Doubt increasing.
I noticed it didn't run out when you were on Navarra. Oh yeah, that's right. I'm saying
It's
you've
only
got
an hour long.
priorities,
My
and those
phone's
are
had to-
correct.
Yeah, my phone's been on for plugged in for 5 hours. I'm surprised it lasted this long, to be honest.
No, fair play.
Capital gains tax. This would mean higher costs for families when they're selling their homes. Will you commit to ruling that out now?
Rachel has set out, yes, we have set out that we will not raise income tax, national insurance and VAT, and we do not need to raise taxes on working.
Okay, but she asked about capital gains, which is none of the things you just mentioned.
I mean, literally, we heard the same lines from Starmer last night, where it was just, we have no plans to raise capital gains tax. Nothing in our manifesto requires an increase in capital gains tax, apart from the £18 billion fiscal black hole that the IFS have talked about.
People, because our manifesto is fully costed, unlike the Conservatives.
So you are not going to raise capital gains tax?
There is nothing in our manifesto that means we have to raise capital gains tax.
So you can say that you're not going to raise capital gains tax?
She's answered. Penny Mordaunt, thank you very much.
I don't think she has, folks.
Okay,
I don't think she has.
Thank you. Nigel Farage.
My question is to Penny Mordaunt. Given that your 2010 manifesto, your 2015 manifesto,
Immigrants.
Reduce immigration, reduce immigration, absolutely.
Your 2017 manifesto said you reduced net migration to 20,000. Your 2019 manifesto said immigration would massively.
It's no point playing Farage bingo because it's just every square just says immigration.
It's a drinking game. Every time he says immigration or population size, you just down an entire can of Red Stripe.
True, but the problem with that is you'd get so badly fucked that you'd have to go to hospital and they'd be treated by a migrant doctor.
True. Also, thank you, Mr. Pianander.
It would be ironic.
Also, thank you, Mr. Pianander, for the £5 super chat. If Keir Starmer had a third child, would he still support 2-child benefit cap? Unfortunately, he wouldn't. He would still support it because that man earns £125,000.
Oh no, he supported. Well, and I don't know if you know this, but he was also the head of the department. The Crown Prosecution Service, which is a very highly paid position in of itself. He's a very rich man. He's not very rich, but he's a wealthy man. It's
crazy. You'd think somebody. I don't know if you know this, chat. I don't know if you know this. Is this factoid I've got about Sir Keir Starmer, KC, right? If the man, right, when he grew up, right, his dad was a tool maker.
Oh,
and you
wow.
know, and he had brothers and sisters. His mum was a nurse as well. They lived in a pebble dash semi, right?
Did
And
they?
you know, that they theoretically might have lived in a world where they might have needed a third child benefit. So you know, it's think of what's changed for him to have gone back
Exactly,
on.
yeah.
Imagine
It's
the tool
what-
makers of today living off of
Yeah.
universal credit.
Well, did someone say pulling up the ladder behind him? Really?
Quite, absolutely.
3 million
are a
people
liar.
have come into the country since that time. Why on earth should anybody believe the fifth manifesto that promises cuts to net migration?
Because of the
I mean, he's a dickhead who's like an entirely one-trick pony. But the question is actually very salient. Why should anyone trust that? You clearly don't actually support cuts in migration. We've seen massive rises in migration. You're prepared to do the let's be mean to them. Let's send a token number of them to Rwanda, but you don't actually want immigration to come down. Otherwise, it would have done.
the record of this Prime Minister. So we've had
Enough, that's fine, I'm happy.
figures out today.
Oh, that's brutal.
It's over. It's over. Conservative Party dead. It's gone. It's that
gone,
moment.
it's over.
That moment
Yeah.
was when it all ended. I'm sad
Yeah,
my
well-
camera's off because I would love to clip this bit and then come back to it in a year and a half's time when the Conservatives are polling at 5%. And I'm just like, yep, this was the moment. This was the
Yeah,
moment
this-
the dream died.
This was the moment that the most successful political party in the Western world died. 300 years of almost unbroken success has just been obliterated in a single second.
Absolutely, this was the turning point. The
When
turning
the
point
guy,
UK.
rather than repeating the same, he just went, "It's over. Yeah, no, that's enough. I literally don't need to hear any more. It's done. It's done." Yeah, okay, pack it up, lads. It's literally not a going concern anymore.
Yeah, literally.
That shows
The Tory party are going to go into administration in the morning. There are going to be no buyers, and they're going to be wrapped up by HMRC.
that visa applications have fallen by 30%, and the OBR's own
Oh,
forecast.
someone wanted to rewind. Apologies. Hang on. We'll go back 10 seconds.
Enough, that's fine.
Record of this.
That promises cuts to net migration.
Because of the record of this Prime Minister. So we've had
Enough, that's fine. I'm happy.
figures out today that show that visa applications have fallen by 30%, and the OBR's own forecasts say that we will halve immigration by next summer. That's the trajectory we are on, and we will give Parliament the chance to set an annual cap on family.
I've got to say, I have been impressed with almost, I mean, it is kind of robot-like stickability. Anyone else would have just got, I think a normal person would have gone, okay, that was too humiliating, I'm leaving. Whereas she's just gone, no, yeah, she's just gone, ice in the veins. No, I'm just going to carry on. I've got my set piece that I'm going to deliver. And then I'm going to go and get very fucking drunk when this is over or something. I hope so. I hope she's injecting or snorting something later. Jesus Christ.
Family and work visas. That will be enshrined a legal cap, and that is what we are offering. That's why you can have confidence that those numbers have come down. They're projected to come down, and the only alternative you have in this election is
Labour.
that, or what the Labour Party have on offer. Nigel is a Labour enabler, and he is a
No, you're the neighbour enabler. Nigel Farage is polling higher than you, Penny. You are enabling Labour. You are splitting
the vote. You are splitters, okay? You are causing the one. Did you see the front page of the Daily Mail today? The one-party socialist state that's going to be created when the Labour Party win a massive majority because you took votes away from the rightful opposition, the Reform Party.
You can't literally.
Target and no plan.
I do.
Penny, let Nigel Farage come back.
I don't believe a single word that you say. You've deceived us with the last 4 manifestos. I don't believe you in the 5th. And as for being a Labour enabler...
Look, she's already dead. You don't need to continue to beat the corpse. It's fucking savage.
We are now ahead of you in the national polls.
Okay, thank you.
A vote for you is actually now a vote for Labour.
Thank you very much.
Fight.
God, look, whatever you think of him, and I think he's fucking scum. He's not a bad shit poster. He's not a bad little shit poster when it comes down to it. Like, because we did that as a joke. We did that bit as a joke, and he's just like, "No, I'm in second place, bitch. I'm flexing on you." And
You know what? You know what, Nigel Farage? I hope you and you enjoy a pint with the lads tonight. Up the rah!
Exactly. I hope you find out who the big sus imposter Chungus is as well.
Thank you for the questions so far. That's it for this point. That's it for
Nigel is
Thank you very much indeed.
Serious, this is the only two.
Thank you very much indeed for all of your questions.
With us and an account on immigration.
Thank you.
Yeah, the dream's dead. The dream's fucking dead, mate.
I don't know why she's continuing to scream into the ether. Do you think this makes you look good? You look like the nutter at the bus stop screaming at the pigeons. What are you doing? Look, everyone's moved on. It's over. You're dead and gone. Your party is finished. And you're just going, no, actually, I vote for Nigel Farage. Just cut her fucking mic off. Jesus.
Thank you very much, all of you, for your questions. We'll have some more of those.
How terribly
Shortly. We've had
dignified.
those from Nigel Farage, Penny Mordaunt and Carla Denyer. More of those to come from our other 4 participants who'll be asking their questions after the break.
Okay. Let's skip forward through this shite. Oh, honestly, it's over. It's over, Tories. The grand old party is no more.
Farage had their go. Now it's time for the other 4 candidates to ask their questions, starting this time with Angela Rayner. Angela Rayner.
Thank you. I'd like to ask Penny, would you allow Nigel Farage into the Tory party?
Good question.
Oh, twisting the knife. Oh, no. It's not even a policy question or anything. It's just, oh, so Nigel, you're Nigel's little bitch now, yeah? Okay, cool.
Let's see now. I'm a Brexiteer. I believe that if you can't reform European institutions, you should be prepared to leave them. I set up a business before getting into Parliament, so that's why I always back business. And I believe in rewarding personal responsibility.
So is the answer yes then? Because doesn't this all apply to Nigel Farage?
Shut up, Wesley.
Well, apart from the business, I guess.
You might think I have a lot in common with Nigel, but what I'm standing against is letting you in and letting you tax the hell out of people.
Oh,
Nigel is
fucking Christ. What kind of answer is this now?
helping you do that. So
flailing,
I think
really
we've probably
flailing.
got less in common.
This is honestly, this is some of the copiest shit. Like she had the whole advert break to like try and regain her composure, and yet the savage burn that he just gave. Look at his little froggy face. Jesus Christ. The savage burn he just laid on her. She can't deal with it, so she's just gonna have to cope her way through it. Sad. Can we get some sadges in chat, please?
Absolutely.
Than you might imagine.
So that's a no then. And apart from your rubbish about us taxing people when you've taxed people the highest in 70 years, which you keep forgetting and you keep going on about 10 years.
Let me respond to that. At the end of the next Parliament, yes, we have had a high tax burden, not, as I said earlier, on low and middle income earners, but overall it has been.
Actually, the percentage of tax paid by lower and middle income earners is at record highs. Literally, like the billionaires have never had it so good.
Yeah.
High. At the end of the next Parliament, on our plans, it will come down. Labour will take it to a record high. What they haven't told you in this campaign is what taxes and on what people. Okay. She couldn't deny capital gains tax earlier on. What? She can't deny fuel duty, council tax.
Thank you, Penny Mordaunt.
Not only do you not listen
Didn't mention meat tax. Outrageous.
to me.
7 bins.
Both Angela Rayner and Penny Mordaunt.
Council tax,
Stephen
they trebled
Flynn,
it in Wales. They need to tell you how they're going to pay for their plans.
Stephen Flynn, time for your question.
It's like being back in the Commons. Angela, it took 4.5 months and the death or injury of almost 100,000 civilians.
Oh, yes. Oh, we're going to get some Palestine posting for the first time in this fucking election.
Stephen, don't do it to her. Don't do it to her. No. She's already dead.
Oh, this is honestly, this is more savage bombing than the IDF got up to. It
Oh, it
really
absolutely is. Absolutely is.
This is a war crime, Stephen. I'm with South Africa on this.
Right, rewind. I need to hear the whole question. I need to hear the whole question. I need to get a fucking clip of this one. Jesus.
And also, for the first time in this entire election, it would appear we're actually going to get a question about the most pressing foreign policy concern of our time. Brilliant.
Yeah. I mean, it seems weird that we just didn't get it as a question for like the entirety of any of the other. Actually, we got it like once, didn't we? Where they in the first ITV debate where they reworded the fucking question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello there. Well, before we get into that, just for a second. Hello there, James from the internet and James from the internet Radarinos. Much love to you. Everyone go and follow James from the internet if you're not already. And if you're not already, what the fuck are you doing?
He is from the internet.
Those are both things that are true about him, yes. Hello there, viewerinos. I'm Kevin Logan, a socialist from the UK. Yes, we do exist. If you hate brickbongers, not as much as I do. Also, I'm with No Justice MTG. She is the rising star of the left here in the UK and will one day become our overlord queen or something. I don't know.
At some point, I will be the best UK streamer in the world ever.
Yeah, she's like Ash Sarkar.
Oh yeah, sure. I'll be the British Hassan. I'll be getting 10,000 viewers or some shit. I don't know. It's not 10,000 people in the UK who watch Twitch politics. So, you know.
Well, you know what? Maybe you'll branch out. Maybe you'll start doing makeup tutorial. I don't know. What the fuck do people watch? I'm not really a person. Yeah. Oh well, during the Euros, I'm going to be doing some football watch-alongs as well, which no one will watch, and I will lose money. I want to watch the game, so fuck you, chat. Anyway, go and follow No Justice MTG. We're watching. We're about to watch the SMP
dumpster.
Absolutely, Cumster and Dumpster. The future, soon-to-be probably deputy prime minister.
Flynn, time for your question.
It's like being back in the Commons. Angela, it took 4.5 months and the death or injury of almost 100,000 civilians in Gaza for the Labour Party to back a ceasefire. On day one of a Labour government, will you end arms sales to Israel?
Oh, yes.
To an applause as well.
Yes. I mean, come on now. Yes. Finally, the incoming government is actually being asked a fucking question about this. Beautiful. Also, can we get some anti-Semites in chat? Because he's clearly an anti-Semite. He didn't even condemn Hamas. Not even once there.
No.
It's an outrage.
And you know as well as I do what happened on the 7th of October.
There we go.
Condemn Hamas!
Israel had the right to defend itself. However, since then, the absolute loss of innocent lives, thousands of innocent lives, everyone in the House, everyone of all political persuasions have been pushing for a ceasefire. I
mean,
does that include the ones, the Tory MPs who came back from a paid trip by the Israeli government, which, by the way, is sort of a little bit spy-y, but anyway, with IDF dog tags and wore them in the House of Chambers, House of Common Chamber, literally besmirching British democracy.
I mean,
that thing.
Even then, Rishi Sunak talks about a humanitarian pause, not a ceasefire. They're backing Israel's war aims. They hope they win, in the words of Rishi Sunak in conversation with Benjamin Netanyahu.
As well as our international counterparts. But if we were in government, we would immediately review, as we've been asking the Conservatives, the legal advice on arms sales to Israel.
Okay, but one thing you can do straight away, literally first day, recognise the state of Palestine.
You could do that. You could also
wouldn't cost a penny. Liz Truss's mini budget can't stop you doing that.
You could also just suspend the arms sales immediately until you've gone through a review to ensure that at no point are you going to, whilst there is at least some doubt. If you feel so sure that Israel is doing nothing wrong, you will engage in a temporary suspension until it's figured out that they're not.
To quote a convicted felon, what we need is extreme vetting. Okay, we need extreme vetting until we find out what's going on. We shouldn't sell a single bullet or gun or tank or anything to Israel until we find out what's going on. That's what we need. Bigly.
And we will comply with international law.
Thank you very much indeed, Stephen Flynn.
You already haven't. He literally said when asked directly about the cutting off of water, power, and internet, she does have a right to defend herself. That's not really following international law, is it?
Nope.
Also, you didn't. The fact that it took you 4 months, which he mentioned, like, that's not great.
Your question about the horrific scenes we've all witnessed following the Hamas attacks of October the 7th and the Israeli military action in Gaza since. Thank you for that question. Daisy Cooper, your question.
Everyone else's.
My question is for Penny Mordaunt.
No? Okay.
So it's about trust. The Conservatives promised to recruit 6,000 more GPs and didn't. The Conservatives promised to build 40 new hospitals, many of which has been make-believe. And since 2015, the Conservatives have missed their cancer treatment target every single year. Why can anybody, or how can anybody, trust the word the Conservatives say about protecting the NHS?
Well, we have met many of our manifesto commitments from the last election, including
Oh, God, you slimy bitch. Fucking hell. Well, we have met some of our commitments, actually. So, I mean, the ones you mentioned, obviously we didn't, and we don't care. But we did meet some of them. We said we'd form a government, and we did that. So, checkmate.
Our public sector workers. And that's why you can see we're making improvements in many public services, as we spoke about earlier. We have a particular issue with the NHS, but we are increasing healthcare professionals, many more doctors, many more nurses. But integrity is vital. It is not right to say that you are not going to increase taxes and are. It's not right to say that you are going to support the nuclear
But Lib Dems
terrorists
are
when you
increasing.
voted
They're
against it.
clear they're increasing taxes.
Yeah,
the
but
Lib
it's
Dems
just
have been clear.
Yeah, well, no. I'm not saying she's wrong there. It's just annoying to hear the same fucking sentence to everything.
Yeah.
Like with Farage and immigration, everything. Tax. Motherfucker, you've taxed us more than any government since the Luftwaffe flattened us. Like, what the fuck are you talking? You look, you've got a leg to stand on.
Yeah.
You've taxed us more than any government in the last fucking 80 years and given us the shittest service we've had since then, too. Fuck me. I apologise, James, from the internet viewers. I imagine many of you are American and you've got your own shit to deal with, but Britain is a bad place, full of bad people doing bad things. This is the deep political analysis you get on this channel. Hit the follow button.
It's not right to say
Thank you, Penny Mordaunt. We're going to move on to Rian Akio's question next. Thank you.
My question is also to Angela Rayner. Given the convergence between Labour and the Conservatives on public spending, maybe I should ask if Labour would accept Penny Mordaunt into your party. But I'll ask this.
Oh, mate! You didn't need to do her dirty like that. That's filth. Oh,
I mean, to be fair, Penny Mordaunt is to the left of Natalie Elphick, who's now a Labour MP. She's to the left of Christian Wakeford and Dan Poulter, or now both Labour MPs. And on trans rights, she's to the left of like half the Labour Party.
She's to the left of official, well, soon to be government policy. Yeah. Thank you, Sozzle Snake, for gifting a sub, and thank you. How the fuck do you pronounce that? Elstra. Thank you for giving me money for me to mispronounce your name.
And thank you,
Much
Thomas,
love.
for even more Chilean pesos. Bloody Phoenicians indeed.
What? Okay, yeah, okay.
Gordon Brown said child poverty is a scar on the soul of Britain. Now, is it the likely incoming Labour government's two-child benefit cap or the £18 billion worth of cuts to public services which will make the situation worse?
Well, you're absolutely right to recognise that child
Gut
poverty
punch.
is a scourge. And as someone who grew up in poverty, I absolutely know that we have to tackle it. And that's why we'd have a strategic number 10 unit that would look at tackling child poverty. But it's not just about one particular
You can tell she
lever.
doesn't believe
we talked
it.
before about housing.
Yeah. Absolute full of shit, yes.
Yeah, you can tell that she's just party. I mean, I hope they do crucify her for this because it clearly hurts her inside to have to defend what is.
Oh, she's devastated. Inside, she's dead inside. Yeah,
yeah, totally fucking devastated. And you just go like, I would just go like, I would honestly, I know it's probably a low blow. I would go like, you've got a 16-year-old, haven't you, Angela? How would you look in her face if you told her that she couldn't go without food because she was a third child? Think about what it'd be like for your children. I would go right for the fucking jugular, right? Because I know, I'm not. You know what? People would say that's below the bar. And maybe it is below the bar, but these people are coming into government promising to put 500,000 children in poverty for no fucking reason. And quite frankly, if they want to take that stupid and quite frankly ruinous political decision, they should be made to feel uncomfortable for doing so. And I couldn't give a shit.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm with you, but like I understand why they do the respectability bit. There's only so, and also you've got to bear in mind. Like I know it might seem like benevolent sexism or whatever, but they've got to bear in mind that if you go really hard attacking a woman, that doesn't look
Bad
great.
optics,
The vibes on that are not great. And actually, that's a problem that I think a lot of I remember reading Michael Foot writing about this when dealing with Thatcher, is that even though she was quite hard-nosed and ballsy, she was still a woman, and so it didn't poll well when he went really, really hard against her and started making it personal, because it just seemed like it was just a bloke like browbeating a woman. And that was Margaret Thatcher, who was basically, I mean, she was a woman, but like, well, anyway, I don't want to go into it. I'm not transvestigating Margaret Thatcher from beyond the grave there. I'm just saying she was quite a masculine, stereotype or whatever. Or aggressive, whatever you want to call it. So look, he has to bear that in mind. You don't want to go too crazy hard. But that's where actually Carla Denyer could have done that. In a way, like you said earlier, she could have gone harder, and it wouldn't have seemed anywhere near as bad, especially because she's 2 feet tall.
Yeah.
So like, she's not a threat to anybody physically, you know.
That is a problem for people. We've talked about employment. Insecure work is a problem for people, low wages. So we're going to tackle all of the issues that will help, and the growing of the economy will give us more money in our public services so we can do those things. But uncosted spending commitments is not going to help our economy, because the Tories did that and they crashed our economy. So our fiscal rules are absolutely cast iron.
Thank you, Angela Rayner. Thank you for all of your questions directed across the stage this evening. We're going to our final question now, and this is a question on politics itself and the faith in it. I'm looking around. I know that Samran's here with your question for our candidates this evening. Samran.
People have lost faith in politics. We feel disconnected from our representatives and sceptical that you will deliver on your promises. The public simply doesn't trust our system anymore. What one change can you make to restore trust in politics?
OK, we're going to keep this succinct because we're running out of time. So 30 seconds, if you can, please, Daisy Cooper. One change, one offer.
You're absolutely right that trust in politics is broken, and the Liberal Democrats have always said it's not just about who's in power, it's about what you do with power. So we believe in devolving power.
What did you do when you were in power?
Don't ask, don't tell.
Yeah.
To local communities so they have more say over what they believe in, and we want proportional representation so that every single vote of every single person actually counts in a general election.
Thank you. Angela Rayner.
You're absolutely right to say about trust in politics. That's why when I've spoke on this panel, there's things that we'd really like to do that we can't do, and we've been honest and upfront about that. But I also think...
Oh, old faithful mini budget. That's going to come in handy to do nothing for the next 10 years.
We need our politicians who make the rules to play by the rules as well. So bringing back integrity and ethics into our politics, which is what Keir Starmer will do in Labour, is exactly
what about lying, Angela? What about lying in politics? What about lying about what you believe? What about lying about the policies that you support? What about lying about internal process in the party? What about lying directly about words that you've said on camera that we've all seen? Because Keir Starmer has lied about literally every single one of those things. Is that integrity in politics, Angela? Does that help build people's trust and faith in politics when people can just lie over and over and over again with complete impunity?
Would someone just do that? Go into politics and lie?
I know,
surely
right?
not. No, because if they did, they'd be outed by the Fourth Estate. The media would out them as liars.
Crucify them if they lied.
Yeah.
People cannot go around, as they have done, breaking the rules and think they can get away with it. The Prime Minister did, the previous Prime Minister to that has done, and I think that's undermined all of us as politicians.
Penny Mordaunt.
we're at the dawn of a new parliament, and I think if we want integrity back, then people need to be honest about their manifestos. The only party on this platform that is...
And they're not being honest about £2,000 in tax.
The audience knew what was coming and have laughed
Yeah.
already. It's so over. It's so over.
It's so over. Look, everyone's seen the Emperor, and his nuts are to the wind, okay?
is going to cut your taxes is the Conservative Party. A vote for any other party will increase your taxes. Higher taxes, higher taxes, higher taxes, higher taxes, higher taxes.
She's fucking broken. She's literally fucking. Like she knows it's over, and it's just like, her soul is broken. Yeah, absolutely.
Also, it's not like being in the Commons anymore because the Speaker would have not have allowed this level of pointing. This is ungentlemanly conduct.
Yeah, this is her real kind of stand up and fight meme moment, isn't it? She's she's just fucking like this is it's like the moment in Trading Places where the rich people realise that they've been swindled by Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd. I forget the names in the thing, and they're just like, we're ruined, turn the machines back on.
Yeah, it really is. She's malfunctioning here. Your shit. You got no fans.
Got no fans.
You want some.
I'll give it you.
It's over. Manifestos. Labour have 3 weeks to do that.
Thank you very much indeed, Penny Mordaunt.
How about some honesty about the fact that freezing thresholds has meant higher taxes under the Conservatives whilst they've been cutting public spending?
It's over. No offence to Plaid Cymru. I like you. You seem nice, but you're not a big party. And if they're able to just fucking ruin you in a sentence, you're done. It's over. You cannot you can't return from that. It's done.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And this is the honesty and integrity that we're looking for. We need politicians to be truthful with people about the challenges that we face. We need good judgment. Yet we have a First Minister in Wales, a Labour First Minister, who accepted a £200,000 donation from a convicted...
I was actually thinking, it's a good thing to bring up because, again, he only has to play to Wales. The people of England don't understand what he's talking about. It doesn't matter to him. He doesn't need to. Anyway, I was thinking about this today. The only they've fucked it up. Well, I'm going to watch Question Time. I don't know if you're going to stick around.
Absolutely, I want to see the Tories fucking flail. It's going to be very funny.
Exactly.
It's Douglas Ross as well, and he's fucking terrible.
That's what I mean, right? Douglas Ross. We'll get into his amazing week he's had. So they're fucking up in Westminster. They're bollocksing it up at Holyrood. The only place where they've had a relative amount of success recently is in Cardiff. At the Senate, right? They called a no confidence vote in Vaughan Gething. People didn't think it would actually pass. People thought, well, they'll probably prop him up or whatever, or they'll abstain and Labour will win or whatever. And they didn't, and he lost. And he just went, oh, fuck you. I'm staying anyway. Bollocks to you. So even when they post a W, it doesn't matter. The Tories are over. It's done. Even when you actually manage to achieve something, it makes no difference.
Convicted environmental polluter. That's poor judgment, and I wonder if Angela Rayner would have accepted it.
Thank you very much indeed. Carla Dania.
I think one of the reasons that people have lost faith and trust in their politicians is that most elections there are hundreds of MPs who are totally safe in their seats because we have an unfair voting system
where the
number of votes cast does not match with the number.
Honestly, I think there are no safe Tory seats for this election.
Nope.
Honestly, Rishi Sunak could lose his seat, and that would be fucking brilliant.
Right. So you know that poll that I mentioned before, which had Reform UK a point ahead of the Conservatives, and it was like 25 or something Conservative seats. They were like in third place. If the poll under Stats for Lefties model specifically, if that poll shifted by 0.5% from Conservative to Reform, the Conservatives would have 6 seats.
Single digits.
That's how close they are to complete oblivion.
Honestly,
like it's super on the cards. Like when I said the death of the Conservative Party, I didn't just mean like out of government or having a merger with Reform. No, if that 0.5 percentage point swing happens, Reform have more seats than the Conservative Party. The Conservative Party dies and Reform UK become the right wing opposition in this country.
Honestly, my pussy could not get wetter. This is amazing. Let's fucking go. I mean, the Labour is shit, but I do enjoy the Tories getting wiped out. there's something genuinely poetic and justice about that. You know?
Oh yeah, and that's true. All 6 of those seats are in Scotland. So they're wiped out across
They're
England.
in England. They wouldn't win a single seat in England.
Yep, England.
No. What the fuck does that mean? I mean, I've seen them be wiped out in Scotland in my lifetime. They didn't have a single seat at one point, and that made sense. For them to not get a single seat in fucking England,
well, yeah, they
is
keep basically,
honestly
yeah.
impossible. That I can't see that. I genuinely.
No, I mean,
can't
I can't see that either. But the thing is that the Reform UK vote isn't as high in Scotland, so they don't get too much of a vote split.
Yeah.
And of course, there's unionist tactical voting as well.
That's also true. Yeah, UKIP never did anything in Scotland either, did they?
Seats elected. That's why the Green Party would change our voting system in general elections to a proportional system, the fair system that almost every other country in Europe has. Do you know there's only one other country in Europe that still uses first past the post? It's Belarus. And why do we not have a fair voting system? Because Conservatives and the Labour Party block it.
Thank you, Stephen.
In my view, you should always vote if you are doing well.
True, but can I just point out what Belarus do better than anyone else is naming their national anthem. I don't know if you know what it's called.
No.
This is genuinely true. My Belarusi is not a joke. That is not a thing I've been paid to say that isn't true. I swear to God, that is the name of the, translated obviously, into a Roman script of their national anthem.
Wet ass Belarusi.
Amazing. Bring a bucket and a mop for this Belarusi. Okay.
Well in life, for the politician who will make sure that others can get on in life. And if you're not doing so well in life, you should always vote for the politician who's going to make things better for you. I think that's a nice and good starting point in politics. The Westminster system, the way it operates, is broken. It's been built on failure, Brexit being the most obvious one of recent times. Hold your politicians to high standards and vote for what you believe in.
Thank you very much indeed. Nigel Farage.
I do agree that the first past the post system has led to the 2 big parties. Well, one was big, not after today's polls, but there we are.
Oh man! Oh.
Nigel, she's already dead.
Oh,
Stop.
This needs an 18+ rating. Honestly, this needs to be age-gated. This is X-rated filth right now. Is what you're doing.
Oh my God! Literally, like.
Unbelievable.
Je téléphone la police.
True. Oh, mate, that's ridiculous. He hasn't even made his fucking point and he's killed her.
It's before this is broadcast for the watersheds.
I know. I'm mad.
They're both mushy sort of SDP parties in the middle. I would change the voting system. I think the House of Lords is an abomination.
True.
Yeah.
Not a Nige. Welcome aboard, mate.
The fact that it's filled up with party donors is a complete disgrace. There must be an elected element. And finally, let's give the people the ability to call more referendums so they can decide the biggest issue.
Firstly, it's referenda, if you're going to plural it, please, dickhead. And secondly, I am against that, really, in the sense that we either go with representative democracy or we go for a much more direct democracy. Having referenda in a representative system is just messy, really, as we saw with Brexit, because you're then it's then incumbent upon a parliament to enact a policy they don't fucking want to, which is just unbelievably scruffy and shit and leads to chaos, which we still haven't really recovered from. So either we stick with the system we have, roughly speaking, with some nice tweaks, or we go for direct democracy on
neoliberalism.
Because the mixture of the two is just silly.
Also, thank you, Andrew Carter, for the 5 gifted. Really appreciate that support. Remember, as always, you can subscribe on Twitch for $4.99 for free with Twitch Prime by linking Amazon Prime to your Twitch account for a free sub every month. Bots dropping bits, 100 bits gets you text to speech on my end, 200 on Kev's end. You can do it on either channel, both bits and subs. On YouTube on my end, you can become a member for 99p to support the stream and get access to my emotes and chat.
Neoliberalism.
And you can also, as Andrew Carter has just done, you can gift memberships to your fellow viewers. That's the best way to support the stream. And you can also super chat if you want me to read out a message as well.
Yep.
their lives.
Thank you very much indeed
neoliberalism.
for that, Nigel Farage. I'll just bring Stephen Flynn in then as in response to some of the things you've heard on improving trust in politics and mending our broken politics.
Well, and I'm just surprised that Nigel Farage wants another referendum on Scottish independence.
Fucking
I'm sure there's a lot of folk
neoliberalism.
back in Scotland who'd be...
Oh, come on, you don't want to lose again, do you?
Who'd be very keen to see that happen. Well, if you're so confident, if everyone else is so confident about that...
I don't think he'd mind, really, because he's not... I don't think he's that big of a unionist, really. I think
Well,
he's got
he's an English nationalist, isn't he?
Basically, yeah. And he knows that as long as the SNP and leftoid-ish Labour MPs sit in Parliament, his plan is much less actionable. It's only if they can have embattled Little England, with Wales, I guess, that he can do what he wants to do. So I don't think he'd mind those leftist MPs fucking off from Westminster, to be honest.
Mm.
But then again, he probably won't get elected to Westminster either, so I don't know.
Let's put it to the test. Let's put power back in the hands of the Scottish people and take it out of politicians at Westminster. I'm sure the Labour Party...
Yeah, I don't mind that.
You had your pop.
Well, I'll put that to Angela Rayner and then come to Daisy.
Okay, but like literally before the Brexit referendum, you said if it was like 55-45 one way or the other, then there was, quote, unfinished business.
Yeah. But then 52% said it was this gigantic mandate. With
the biggest mandate.
With no compromise at all. No compromise on anything.
Exactly,
policy.
yeah. Exactly. If you don't want my hardest of hard Brexit ever, then you are betraying 17.4 million people. Okay?
Cooper.
I think over the last few years, trust in politics has just been blown to pieces. The Conservatives have taken a wrecking ball to standards in public life. And people are seeing the back teeth of the lying and law-breaking from Boris Johnson, the mini-budget from Liz Truss, and the failures from Rishi Sunak. It is time for change.
Penny Mordaunt, if you'd like to respond directly to that.
Well, look, I think we have an opportunity now. We're going into a new parliament. I know that my colleagues up and down the country are doing a good job in their constituencies. They care about the people that they represent. We have to hold individuals to account. But if we can't be honest about what is in our manifestos, then that doesn't bode well for our Parliament.
Yeah,
I say it again to
dying
Angela,
gasp
3
to the
weeks,
failing
tell us where
government.
your tax rises are coming from.
OK, Angela Rayner quickly and then Rhian Ap-Ruoth.
And
I mean, we said we're not going to be taxing working people. The Tories, judging by our record, they have done that. And Stephen,
I think that record has been well played a little this evening.
I want our nations to work together. I think we're better together. And the one thing we have got in common is we need to get rid of the Tory government in Westminster, and that's why people need to vote Labour.
The Tory government's forever by backing Scotland's independence. That's what we should do.
And just briefly, no wonder people are fed up. It's the PPE corruption. It's the Downing Street parties during COVID. We need to hold politicians to higher standards than we've seen in recent years.
Thank you very much indeed.
Well, the reason I focused on a fair voting system, I mean, there's so much that could be better in politics, but the reason I focused on that is that when MPs have safe seats, they're not held to account. Short of a serious breach of the law and being found to be a criminal, you can do pretty much anything if you're an MP in a safe seat and you'll be re-elected. Holding MPs to account, a big part of that is making sure that they are properly answerable to the electorate.
Well, have you considered that Jess Phillips likes it just as it is?
I mean, to be fair, like, you also don't hold politicians to account in that same way if they're on a party list, right? They just stay at the top of the party list forever.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Maybe you could have a mixed system. There are alternative, complicated ones out there. Although some people fail with just putting an X in one box, so I don't know how much more complicated we can make it, to be honest. What's this? I've got to put a number 1 and a 2 and a 3. Oh, for fuck's sake.
Thank you. So a little variety of ideas in answer to that question. Thank you very much indeed for that. And thank you for all of your responses. So some big ideas on...
Yeah, I don't care what you have to say. No offence, but, you know. Time is pressing, and we've got Scots to listen to in question time.
We do indeed. YouTube viewers. Unfortunately, what I cannot do is stream question time at you. I'm unable to do so because we will get copyright cucked if we do. So I'm going to post a link to my Twitch stream in the YouTube chat. If you're watching on YouTube and want to come join us, please do. Of course, I understand if you'd rather go to bed. But there's the link for you to come and watch me over on Twitch if you'd like to be able to go and view that there. And you can watch Question Time with myself and Kev. But I will be ending the YouTube stream there. Remember to get your bits, maybe get your memberships in before that does end. If you're going to stick around and not want to go to Twitch, I will send you over to somebody else. Is there a closing statements they're going to do?
I don't think that. Hang on. Did I get rid of the thing? I think I might have gotten fucking rid of it. Hang on. No, hang on. I still got it. Hang on. Let me run it on. Oh no, there are closing comments. Sorry, I thought that she turned to the camera like it was over. So
Okay, we'll watch some closing statements. We'll watch some closing statements, and then we'll go over to Twitch. You've all got the link now, anyway.
Yes. Hang on, there's my link. Everyone go and follow. Go over to the Twitch soon, quickly, now.
I mean, whilst we're doing the closing statements, it'll be the same stream anyway, so you might as well hop over to Twitch and get it in early.
Yes. Right.
Closing statements, and our first this evening is with Carla Daniel.
I'm literally a communist.
I'm going to be straight with you. The choice you make on the 4th of July isn't just about which party you vote for. If we look beyond the finger pointing and squabbling, politics is about choosing the kind of future we want for our children. We all know the Tories are toast, and Labour will form the next government. But are they offering real change, or is it the same broken politics dressed up with a red rosette? We deserve better. So as you watch this with your friends or family, think of who you want on your side in the next Parliament, making sure your voice is heard. The Green Party is on the cusp of breaking through in seats up and down the country, and Green MPs will never stop defending our future, protecting our NHS from privatisation, and pushing the next Labour government to think bigger and act bolder. They'll tell you that's not how it works. They'll tell you you have to vote for more of the same. But a vote is a choice. And on the 4th of July, you can choose real hope and real change.
Thank you very much, Penny Mordaunt.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Tonight, Angela Rayner has proved one thing.
£2,000 tax. Tax.
Not honest about
Labour
the manifesto.
Yeah.
Will put up your taxes.
Hey!
Labour's track record of economic hardship speaks for itself. The lesson of the last few years is that when Labour are in charge, unemployment rises and tax rises. They will do it all over again. They're going to tax your pension. They're going to tax your home. And
they're
what
going
you
to
need
tax
know
your
from
mom.
Tonight is that they are also going to push up your bills. These are hard truths, but better face them now than regret them later. It's your choice, it's your vote, and it's your future in your hands. So, if you value your pension, don't give a blank cheque to Labour. If you value your pension, vote Conservative. If you value your home, vote Conservative.
Does she think this is coming across like as we will fight them on the beaches?
It's desperation, isn't it? Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Like, again, you got to say it's admirable the way she stood up to, I mean, sickening burns tonight.
And also on top of that, like, it's just, if you worry about your pension, like, you, the Conservative government, have done the worst of people's pensions. Like, that's the one thing that Liz Truss did, was fuck over pensions because of the mini budget.
Yeah.
If you value your future,
it's
vote
desperate.
Conservative.
It's very desperate.
Yeah.
Our country is crying out for change, and it's not hard to see why. Day in, day out.
From the movement, I'm getting Theatre Kid vibes. Own the space.
All over the country, people are striving just to get on in life. But under this Conservative government, too often, it feels like we're fighting a broken system. Nothing works. Under Ed Davey's leadership, the Liberal Democrats are promising a fair deal for the British people. We will fix the NHS and social care, tackle the cost of living crisis, and stop filthy raw sewage being dumped into our rivers and seas. A vote for the Liberal Democrats
that hasn't
is a
been
vote
mentioned
for a
as well,
strong
has
local
it?
champion, a vote for a fair deal, and a vote to help deliver the change that we all so desperately need.
Like literally, the water authorities are having to say boil your water because apparently it's 1851 again. Like it's ridiculous. Don't catch cholera or dropsy or whatever, right? Nonsense. And it's like not even an issue. People, it just hasn't been raised at all.
And in so many parts of the UK, a vote for the Liberal Democrats is the best chance of finally voting this disastrous Conservative government out of office.
Remember, only the Lib Dems can win here, meaning everywhere.
I mean, there's a really my funny one was like the North Korea elections 2028. With the choice between Kim Jong Un or Lib Dems, only Lib Dems can win here.
Exactly.
The choice at this election is simple: more chaos with the Conservatives or change with Labour. Imagine waking up on the 5th of July.
Would you say they're trying to create a coalition of chaos?
Loved it.
And that you're offering strong and stable governance? Oh, hang on. I don't know why that happened there.
5 more years of a chaotic Tory government. Years of high tax and low growth, while everything gets more expensive. Crime going unpunished. NHS waiting lists getting longer. The Tories have left you and our country worse off. A vote for Labour is a vote to end the chaos. We know we can't tax our way to growth. Labour's plan for growth and wealth creation is about stability, investment.
Strong and stable. It really is.
Economic stability is change. We will bring down NHS waiting times with 40,000 new weekly appointments, and we'll secure our streets and our borders with more neighbourhood police and border security command. Vote Labour for the change.
Thank you. Stephen Flynn.
Let's start with the good news. The Tories are finished. 14 years of Cameron, Clegg, May, Johnson, Truss and Sunak, that's finally coming to
I'm glad he mentioned Clegg in there as well, the Tory prick.
So attention must turn to what comes next. And at a time when there should be hope and optimism, there is so little on display. Keir Starmer's status quo offers us yet more cuts and yet more Brexit. Well, in the SNP, we don't accept that cosy Westminster consensus. We believe in better investment in our NHS, action on the cost of living crisis, rejoining the European single market, economic growth by delivering net zero, Scotland's future in Scotland's hands. So on July 4th, vote for that future. Vote SNP to put Scotland's interests first.
Stephen Flynn, thank you. Nigel Farage.
Unlike the rest, I don't need a script. I've come out of retirement, back into politics with passion in my heart. And I'll tell you, Britain is broken, everyone knows it, and Britain needs reform. The election is over under our system. We know that Keir Starmer's going to win and probably have quite a big majority. The question is, who will lead the opposition? Because for democracy to work, there has to be a voice of opposition. And I put it to you that Ed Davey of the Liberal Democrats won't do that because he actually agrees with Labour on most things. Rishi Sunak won't do it. Well, he'll probably be in California by then anyway. And the Tory party is split down the middle. And
again, it's decent bands. You got to give it to him.
You really need to
implode in this election. I say to you,
up the raw.
I will stand up against open borders. I will stand up and say,
oh, here we go.
Illegally across the channel
Stand up and fight.
deported. I will stand up and fight for the millions of men and women running small.
No, you won't. You'll lose, and then you'll spend the rest of the year in America with Donald Trump licking his arsehole. So, like, behave yourself.
Businesses. I have the courage to take on the mob. Please join the revolt.
Thank you. Rhian ap Iorwerth.
I'm sure there'll be people who were thinking, why is this guy from Wales being invited onto a debate? It's being broadcast across the whole of the UK. Well,
firstly, Wales is a part of the country, and that is rarely taken into account, unfortunately.
I hope some of what I have said has resonated with you, wherever you are, and that you agree we need to do politics in a different way. But the fact that some do think that reflects what Plaid Cymru is all about. We are here to offer a positive vision of what Wales could be, knowing that time and time again, our aspirations go unheard by Westminster governments, be that Labour or Conservatives. Now, the truth is, throughout the UK, there are communities who feel ignored and overlooked, and I hope you stand up for your community. And for me, it'll always be about standing up for Wales. Now, it's high time that the Conservatives were kicked out of power, but Labour will have to be held to account too. And Welsh voters can do that through Plaid Cymru MPs and their vision for fairness and ambition for Wales. Vote Plaid Cymru on July.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you know what? I'm fine with them returning some Plaid Cymru peeps. They're generally pretty good. Yeah.
I mean, they all seem very nice people.
And that brings us to the end.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they do a pretty decent job in the Senate as well, from what I can tell. Yeah.
Absolutely. Right, we are now actually going to be moving over to Twitch again now. Let me just pop the link back in YouTube chat for everybody to go watch. Oh, sorry, that's the link to the. I did drop the link to the YouTube version of Question Time, so that you can keep all of your scenes on OBS in the same place. Makes it easier for having to shift things around rather than using iPlayer, which is a different format.
Indeed. Okay. I'm going to turn off YouTube now. So go over and say hello on Twitch. I do not accept the excuse that it's late and you're going to bed. That is no excuse.
There's 157 of you in YouTube. You can come watch on Twitch. We have animated emotes and bits, which is not as good as the user interface on YouTube, but it's still worth coming because we can watch copyrighted stuff. So I'm going to raid you in on YouTube viewers into Goddammit Malcolm, who's the only person who's live, but you should come over and join us on Twitch. Right.
Yes. Am I now done on YouTube? I am now done on YouTube.
Is
I'm also now done on YouTube.
Awesome.